Hello, everybody, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast, episode 271. I am your host, John Van Derzen. I am here tonight, joined with a new co-host, someone that we've booted Terry Miller. He's actually over in Croatia this week, and filling in for Terry, filling his very small shoes. Terry has got small feet, so.
Comparatively, he's a big guy, small feet.
Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't tip over anymore. But it's Mahmoud Bahrani.
Yeah.
Most people know him as Mo from Central Coast. Mo, how you doing tonight?
Disappointed, hurt, sad. Bulls let me down again. We're like 5 games in. I've already had like 2 just huge disappointments in terms of this game and the last game. It's a rough start. But disc golf is so great.
Well, what a lot of people, maybe they do or they don't know about you, is you are very quiet on Twitter for like 6 months out of the year. And then when the NBA season opens, it's the floodgates.
I
see at least 15 tweets, probably a day from you when basketball is going on. And they're great. So if you want your hot or rather cold Bulls takes, feel free to follow Mo on social media.
I always warn everyone that, like, if you're following me for disc golf purposes, that's cool. But just, like, totally know that by, like, October 15th, I really switch gears really hard to the basketball world. It used to be my job. So, like, I'm very much committed to watching, like, 2 games at least a night. I'm skipping my second game to be on this podcast, Johnny B.
What was your second game going to be tonight?
It was probably going to be the tail end of this game, the Bucks game.
You're not missing much.
But, yeah, so stoked to be on here. I've reached a mountaintop, Johnny B. Like, how much higher can you go than this?
Well, you were a guest on Smashbox before, and that's pretty good. And now
that's special,
now you're co-hosting. I think the only position higher than that, and argue with Terry all you want, is actually switching the show, which is what I do. And
I don't want that.
If you can get that job, more power to you. I'm happy. My dream someday is to have somebody like sitting across the room actually doing that for me, so I can focus more on guests and disc golf and the chat board,
and not have to like coordinate like 4 things. Yeah,
correct. You know, have someone come in at like 8:30 and coordinate guests and get them all set up and all that other stuff. I think that would be it wouldn't be a fun job for whoever has to do it, but it'd be much more fun
for you.
It'd be much more fun for me.
That's the important thing.
Some people on the board are right away mentioning your Smashbox shirt. That's a pretty exclusive shirt. Where did you get that?
Dude, I'm so stoked. So I mentioned to Terry when we were in Delaware that I really wanted some sort of Smashbox paraphernalia, and he pulled this out of a box. I don't know if he gave it to me like that weekend or the next weekend, but he just had a Smashbox shirt, and it's the best shirt that I own. I wear it proudly around New York City, just walking around. Like just to hopefully confuse people. Some people might think maybe it's like some kind of, there's 2 X's, but if there's one more X, it's kind of like,
You don't know.
So just to like confuse people. I wore it during Champs Beat Chumps in Maine, so you'll see it like and Nick Sexton makes fun of me for it. Like this is like my favorite shirt. I love these things. I love these, like all the Savage shirts. Like they're all like super nice. I have a couple of Joma's ones that I wear a lot too. So really comfy. They don't pay me to say that, but just shouts to Savage.
Savage has helped us out. That was the shirt that our guys for Worlds this year got, thanks to Savage Apparel. Mm-hmm. They helped provide those for our cameramen, and I think Terry had a couple extras. I honestly, tonight is the first time I've ever seen it. I never had a chance to see it before. You got one, and our cameraman got one, but
I don't know what style this is. Is like it's very garish.
It is very garish. Yes,
it's in your face.
It was really funny at one point during, I believe it was the MVP Open. We were getting prepped for our live. You guys were live. I think it was maybe right after the round, and you came walking up to Corey Merle, and he was making fun of that shirt. And and he had no clue that I could hear him because the cameras were still live, and you were just standing there. Or maybe it was as you were going out or something along those lines. But so Corey, you can suck it. Just saying, Mo has a shirt, and it's great.
It's an amazing shirt, and it's like I'm not wearing it like I know it doesn't look great. Like that's the point. Like the point is that it is in your face, and the point is that it's like look how obnoxious this shirt is. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Well,
not meant to be like, man, I look really cool in this Smashbox shirt. Like, we don't take it. You got to know that you don't take yourself too seriously.
and that's the way a lot of the Savage, I think, apparel is. I mean, a lot of those
Yeah, exactly.
Jomez shirts look the same. If you watch a lot of Ultimate, you see some of the teams wearing Savage apparel, and they have that similar style, or maybe not quite the pattern, but like a giant dragon on it or something,
Yeah,
or some
over
sort
the
of
top type
logo.
thing.
A lot of over the top type stuff, and that's what they're. I mean, they do the full color printing, so that's what they're kind of known for.
Yeah, but yeah, I like it, and it's comfy. Like, if it was a blank black shirt with just a Smashbox on it, I'd still wear it because it's a really like cozy shirt. So.
Yeah, my wife made fun of me yesterday because I wore my Smashbox T-shirt around,
Mhm.
and she's like, "Really? Is that much self promotion?" And it's a comfy T-shirt that I went from an event that Terry ran down in Kenosha.
So Terror Bear is in. I saw he's in Croatia with Gary to the O and one more person.
And Johnny Rumble, who's a local
Yeah,
here. Gary is, as many of you know, he's been a cameraman for us in the past, and probably hopefully in the future, as well as doing graphics for me here during, I think it was last year's Pro Tour. He was kind of the graphics guy, and this year I was able to automate him out of a job for now until I need something a little bit more detailed.
What are they doing over there? Are they just like vacationing, or he's like filming something?
He's filming something. He was brought over by I forget whom it was that brought him over, but he is over there doing some recording and video blog. I think there might be an event there. I do not know for sure if he's actually doing shot-by-shot coverage at some point, but he is there documenting their trip, and I've seen some really cool pictures from those guys. They visited a castle or two, and
Yeah, there's lots of those.
It's I mean, no doubt I'm a little jealous, but unfortunately we have someone's got to hold down the fort here. So.
For sure. I went to Croatia a couple of years ago with my girlfriend and her mom, and it's just like the prettiest place. I think all the disc golf is not in the same place where all like the tourists go, actually. Like, at least from what I know following Paige, like the disc golf is kind of more in the northern part of the country, away from the coast, and most of the tourism, like the Brubnik and all the like the touristy cities that people go to, all the castles and stuff are along the coast. Like this, Croatia looks kind of like this. Like, it looks like here's the coast, and then here's like the mainland. This is a terrible representation of what Croatia looks like, but yeah. So I don't know exactly where the disc golf is, but from what I remember, it's all kind of not near the coast. So. But yeah. So hopefully Terry gets to go down to Dubrovnik.
Hopefully, because I looked today on UDisc at Croatia, and I think they have one course registered in UDisc, which is in the southeastern portion of the state. It was like it's like Texas. I think it was literally called like Texas Rangers something or other course, and I was confused at first, and I was like, oh no, that's literally what it's called. But I know over in Europe, UDisc isn't quite the preferred app. They use Metrics over there, so I'm sure if you're looking for courses, the Metrics is the preferred disc golf tournament listing or disc golf course listing.
Yeah, I was trying to look at courses in Finland, and they have like frisbeegolfing.something en or something. Like, it's cool that every state kind of has their own, or every country has their own like app or whatever. But yeah, I think I've golfed in 3 or 4 countries now, which is, I mean, pretty fortunate, all things considered. But golfed in England, I've golfed in the Netherlands, and I've golfed in, actually it's just those 2. But yeah, the golf scene in England actually is pretty cool.
Is it? I haven't, I mean, you hear about all the different places over in Europe, but almost everybody thinks of the Scandinavian countries. Yeah. I've been in really just the United States, all over the U.S., and then Japan. I haven't.
Oh, geez, Japan Open would be so cool.
It was. I'm glad I got to go to it before. I don't know if we'll ever see it again, but I'm really glad I got to do it. It was right after my son was born. I'd made plans with Terry like a year prior, because you have to with that type of travel almost, and then my son was born, and he was like 3 or 4 months old, I believe, at the time. And I've just told my wife, see you later, have fun. So
good luck.
We have so much, I guess not so much, but we've got a little bit of news tonight.
Yeah.
We've seen, it is in the baseball, as they call hot stove season. What do they call it in basketball? Is it the hot stove as well? What's the off-season trading / free agency market called?
Can't think of, we don't really have anything.
Is it
It's just like just the off season.
just the off season? Yeah, and obviously we have trade deadlines in the NFL right now. We've last week or on Friday, I believe, or maybe it was just yesterday even, we saw a bunch of different trades happen or could have happened in the NFL. But now we have disc golf trades or free agency. We've seen two things announced so far today. Drew Gibson announced that he will no longer be with Innova.
Yeah.
And Jordan Castro, who's our guest tonight, announced that he will no longer be with Dynamic Disc. So I reached out to Jordan. It's funny because I just wanted to get a general idea. I said, hey, Jordan, you don't have to give me any details, but what's the plan? And he said, well, would you like me to join the show? I said, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
As long as he can talk about it, I'm
For
good.
sure.
I don't want him to come on and just tell us that he's not, he's no longer with Dynamic Disc and he can't say anything. So hopefully we'll get some information on Jordan. I know you have some questions. I have some questions. We'll get to him probably in about 20 minutes or so.
But I do think it's interesting because the contract season's kind of moving sooner and sooner, right? Because as the sport gets bigger and there's more money involved, it's almost like you have like the cap space, right? You have like a certain amount of money that you're reserving for players. So if Innova is going out and that's just an example, is going out and saying, hey, to your regional player that they think is really great and can make a jump, and they get that player first, then everybody else is kind of out of luck. So it's just getting earlier and earlier with teams grabbing different kind of big name players. I saw someone in Connecticut, the local Connecticut scene, Craig Smolin, just got picked up as like an ambassador on Innova. And I know that's not obviously the same as their actual team, but it's still like, I'm sure it's part of the whole thing. Like JP, Jonathan Poole, the Innova team manager, is probably contacting all these people kind of at the same time. So I'm sure the next week or two, we're going to see just like floodgates open with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I would assume so. And it makes more sense. For a long time we've seen, and we probably still will this year even, because just due to legacy, players announce right around the first of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that's going to go out the window pretty soon.
I agree. I think you're going to start seeing it closer to now, towards we'll say right at the end of the season, so that players have a better chance, as you said. So players have a better chance to become acquired or move, get used to their plastic. They've got an entire off season with it. But on top of that, like you said, so these sponsors can really look at budgets as well. I mean, we're getting to that point where they truly have to have a free agent budget. It's it's not quite a salary cap, but they need to know what they can spend if they want to go out and get someone or try to sway somebody off of another team. There's more and more, and I think the end of October, early November just makes the most sense for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think getting to practice with new plastic is like hugely important, because all these top level pros for the most part are going to warm weather places where they can practice all off season. So like having that off season to gain the familiarity with the new Frisbees is hugely important. I'm really interested generally, and interested to ask Jordan specifically, if all this money that is going to these top level players, like we've seen kind of a new paradigm shift where the top guys are getting a ton, like they're getting like real money.
Yeah, we're talking like, honestly, I know of at least 5 players that probably have a 6-figure salary.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard that also, and I'm wondering if that's pushing. I'm not pushing out, but like kind of diminishing the amount of money that is left for players like Jordan, who are very good. He's 10-20 rated, like he's very good, but he's not, upper tier, upper echelon. Like if you mentioned into a disc golfer on your local course, and you're just walking around, you see a guy who's carrying 5 discs and a beer, like probably doesn't know who Jordan Castro is. He probably knows who Paul McBeth is, because all his discs say Paul McBeth on them, whether he wants them to or not. Like just a lot of discs say Paul McBeth on them, a lot of discs say Ricky Wysocki on them. But there's no like Jordan Castro disc you can just pick up at Dick's. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens to that tier of player, the 10-20 and down, like the Andrew Fishes, the Jordan Castros, the Eric Oakleys, the very good players who can at any point finish in the top 10 of any big tournament, but maybe not necessarily like
consistently.
name brand players out there. So
yeah, I'm curious if we're going to see that mid-tier player either push towards specific, I hate to stereotype, but push towards specific manufacturers, or
Oh yeah.
because forever it's been Innova and Discraft. Those have been the two big manufacturers, and I still feel that they are, as we've seen this year with Discraft's resurgence, and then Innova has just always been there due to Kenny and Paul for a long time, and now Ricky and Nate and Germ. It's I have to wonder if some of these mid-tier players are going to move to a legacy and
smaller companies.
Smaller companies.
Yeah.
Your Trilogy lineup, your Prodigy, who don't quite have the budget behind them that our big two do. And
exactly.
And if the minor manufacturers can, and I hate to call them that, but that's kind of what they are. They're the just like Jordan is probably a mid-tier player. Those are kind of the mid-tier manufacturers. If the mid-tier manufacturers, what their plan is in order to try to retain some of the upcoming talent, whether it's like a DD who grabs
like
the junior, the Esquiel, or even like a Chris Clemens who gets them before they have a name. And how are you going to retain that player?
Yeah, exactly.
Other than if you can't afford to pay him, and maybe they can, and like you said, maybe it hurts Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah. I mean, there's a lot of players out there that are kind of on that fringe level who are touring. They're grinding like old school players used to grind, right? Like these are players out there that are not doing it comfortably. The margins are really slim for these players. So like it is actually worth it for them. It's maybe not necessarily worth it for Sexton or Macbeth or Wysocki or any of these guys making actual money. If like another company said we can offer you X amount more, it might not be worth it to them because they're already making so much and they're like, I really like my plastic. But like if you're on that level where you're like scraping by every meal and someone says I can give you just a little bit more to make it so you're comfortable, that's hugely impactful as opposed to those top tier guys. So it'll be really interesting to see this offseason, like all these players that like are important, like the Luke Humphreys of the world, the Austin Hannums, like the players who will finish in like top 5 at Worlds. Like it can't all be Macbeth and Wysocki and Sexton. Like there's going to be someone that has a hot performance somewhere.
And we've seen a lot of, I think we talked about it last week, these players that are signed to multi-year agreements. We know that I believe Simon signed a 4 or 5 year deal. Paul was a 4-year deal. Ricky was a couple-year deal. Eagle is through 2020. I think he signed a 2-year deal last year. What's going to happen with kind of everybody else? Because it feels like most of the really big names, and I think Paige Pierce agreed to a 3-year contract last year, or something along those lines. And, the Kevin Jones is in a multi-year contract.
Yeah, so all the big names,
all the big names seem to be locked up. So we're gonna see what happens with some of the smaller names. So you had brought it to my attention earlier today when we were talking that the A-tier schedule was released. Is that right?
Oh, it hasn't been released yet. I thought it was going to be released.
Thought it was going to be released.
Yeah, I know when my A-tier is, but I don't know that I can say it yet. So,
all right. Well, let's kind of get into that just a little bit. You ran an A-tier just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, not this past weekend, but the weekend before it.
And this was the first time you ran an A-tier?
Yeah, it was my 3rd tournament ever and my first time running an A-tier, the Firefly Hollow Open. We had 52 players, so obviously a pretty small field. But Andrew Fish came away with the W on the men's side, and Cassandra Leoy came away with the win on the FPO side. Fish took home $1,500, and Cass took. So something I like to do that I think all TD should do is take money away from your MPO players, take at least like 1 entry fee's worth from your MPO and shift it to the FPO purse. So Cass took home she took home $580 for beating 1 person. It was a two-person field. She took home $580.
That is, I mean, in a good way, ridiculous.
Yeah,
you can.
And so, I paid out second place. Like there were 2 people in the field. I paid out both, and second place got double their entry fee just for showing up.
Impressive.
So yeah, so like I kind of make a point of doing that. I think it's really important, and I think if you are listening to this and you run A tier, you should also do that. It's like super easy. It doesn't cost that much money. I took $200 away from $6,000 for MPO, right? Like they're not going to miss $200 for that whole field. Whereas for Pickle, who got second in the tournament, it like paid for her trip. Like she got to come down from Maine to play this tournament because we did that, and like that's worth it to me over having the. I don't think Andrew Fish needs another $100 on top of his $1,500.
Oh, it depends who you. If you ask him, he might. No, yeah. Andrew is one of the funny thing is Andrew of all people is one of those guys that would, very much push for more equality in the money for FPO. If you follow him on Twitter, he is a big advocate for a lot of that for a lot of the FPO players. Yeah,
for sure. Do you want me to go into my rant now or later about how New England Team Challenge is killing New England tournaments in October?
Well, I told Jordan about 9:35 to 9:40, so we have time. Let's get into your rant about a team tournament that seems to be killing other events in October. What's going on?
So, okay. New England Team Challenge is one of the coolest things about living in New England and playing disc golf in New England. For those of you who don't know, in between early October, even earlier than that, September to basically April, every course in New England, for the most part, has a team. Some courses have like 3 or 4 teams. Borderlands, for example, in Massachusetts has like 3 or 4 teams. And all these teams play kind of against each other in a pool system. So it's like the English Premier League, where you get relegated if you're at the bottom of your bracket, and if you at the top of your bracket, you get pushed up to the next pool. So it's a really fun system. There's at least 1,500 players in New England Team Challenge. There's 5 or 6 pools with 8 teams each. Each team hosts has like 16 players. So it's a big deal in New England. Like it is a bigger deal to some players in New England than tournament season is. Like they'll take off PDGA season so they can get ready for New England Team Challenge. I say all that to just kind of show how important it is, so that when I tell you, I had at least 15 people drop out of my A tier with a lot of money with Central Coast Filming MPO to play Team Challenge. I had, which, like, you pay money to play Team Challenge. You bring food. You are playing in cold, miserable conditions usually, and all these players left an A tier where they were going to get money and perhaps be filmed just so they could play a Team Challenge event in October, like your first match of the year, basically. And I've seen this happen to like a lot of tournaments around the New England area, especially in Connecticut, where Team Challenge is a pretty big deal. Like the Sherwood Island Open, I think all the ice bowls are like dead now. You can't run an ice bowl anymore, which used to raise a ton of money for charity. But people are like, why am I playing a PDGA event in the ice and snow when I could play Team Challenge? Like Team Challenge is a lot more fun. It's like you're supposed to drink beers and suffer through the cold and with your friends.
And when is the Team Challenge again?
It's all winter.
All winter long.
Yeah, so we'll play in like 2 to 3 feet of snow. I've gone to Maine and played in ice. Like I've done some really stupid things to play Team Challenge. Like I'm paying $100 this weekend. I'm paying $150 basically to rent a car and drive to Connecticut to play Team Challenge, which is insane. I get nothing. I played 2 rounds, and like the best case scenario is we won, but like it's not like I'm playing a big tournament where I might make back the cost of the rental car. Like it's just literally the only thing I can get out of it is being with my friends and winning this Team Challenge, which is really, really cool and really important to me. But at the same time, it has killed any ice bowl, the possibility of any ice bowl happening, and it has like greatly, greatly hampered any A tiers happening in like the September, October, November region in New England. So, especially like, it didn't hurt the Warwick A tier as much because Warwick is like the best course in the country and everyone's going to go play that course regardless. But like my A tier, which is a new A tier at a course that not a lot of people know, got really hurt by the fact that like people are like, I'm not going to play this 3-day A tier if I'm going to miss my team challenge. So yeah, it's a bummer, and I don't know what the fix is.
That was going to be my next question: is what is the fix in your area for that? We used to have, and it wasn't nearly to the extent you did in Wisconsin. We still do have a team tournament, but it's a 1 weekend, eight player team event, or 12 player team event, and it years ago it was extremely prestigious, and I feel like the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, it has become less and less important to a lot of players, to the point where teams are just not able to fill it, and everyone's kind of like, well, and part of it is financial, because like your event, you unless you win, you don't come out ahead, and even when you win, you might not come out ahead, because the whole point of the event is to go way up north to Sandy Point. You get a cabin, you hang out with your team at night. Everybody gets together and has a lot of fun. During the day you play, 9 or 12 hole challenges against all the other people with your seed. But ultimately the winners, I think one, I don't remember what the $250, I think I won $250, which didn't even cover the weekend.
I wish we won 250. Like we run. I remember for our last big match in Maine, we went and rented a house in Maine for like 12 people, and we all stayed the night. And then we went to go play the team the next day, and we just got shellacked. We lost like 31-6 or something like ridiculous. And it's like, I remember I personally had to pay like $70 to rent this house with the team, and just to pay $70 and drive all that way. And especially I was coming from New York City, like just to get like beat up by this main team that we knew we were going to lose to. Like it's tough, man. But I mean, Team Challenge is amazing. It's really fun. But I wonder if there's something that the PDGA can do to maybe make it so that New England tournaments aren't like squashed until the last 6 weeks of the year. Like, or if maybe Team Challenge could get pushed back like a month or something. It's just tough because you don't want to play Team Challenge in the ice and snow. But
it sounds like people do. I mean, if you play from November or October through April, you're almost guaranteed to have to play in the snow.
Yeah, I think it's nice that you have like one match right now. You have your October match is always like the nice match, the September October matches. But yeah, maybe there should be a thing with like no team challenges can be scheduled when there are A tiers, just to allow those top pros, because like everyone plays team challenge, like all the pros, like the top pros too. Like Bobby Copperwaite, the best player in Connecticut, plays for team. I think he plays for Team Bridgeport or Team Wick. Like all the top pros in Maine, all of them, Jason Dorr, Cooper Legee, they're all on Tyler Grady. They're all on teams. Like it's like a big deal. And I just wish we could figure out a way to kind of coexist a little bit better. But
yeah, it sounds like the New England area has to work out some sort of. I mean, I don't know if you can go to the PDGA with something like that. That sounds more. Yeah, it sounds more of a regional issue that you would have to schedule or arrange, or make sure that now that you personally have your A tier time, that you could maybe make it
well ahead of time and say, hey guys, let's not schedule a tournament or a team challenge this particular weekend, or however it is. It's unfortunate, but it's a really, really cool concept, the extended team. I've heard of other challenges like match play events that do that, where you have a season to play somebody. Like, hey, I need to get my match in with you before April or before March or May, so I can move on or not move on to the next tier. And then by October, you usually have two or one or two matches that need to happen. So it's a really great idea, which is funny because I had just heard of not the concept. I've heard of the event, but had no idea the format and how long it actually took. Yeah, it's really involved. So the captains make up the match schedule basically like as you go. So you have to play a team during a certain month, but you don't know the weekend. So that's up to the captains to kind of figure that out. And then you have one floater match that can kind of like go whenever. but you play teams like on the road, away. You have three home matches, 3 away matches, and then 1 floater. And it's eight teams in a bracket, so you play each team once. It's incredibly fun. Like I love playing for my team, PDH2. We were D pool champions last year, and so we got bumped up to C pool this year, and now we're trying to move on our way up to B pool and so on and so forth. But and we're playing West Thompson this weekend. They're technically Connecticut, but they're basically massholes. Like, you know what I mean? They're like on the Connecticut Mass border. I don't want to say anything and give them like bulletin board material, but
well, I was just about to ask, do you feel that your team is favored in that matchup, or are you at an underdog, or is it more of do you feel it's more of an even match? Like you said, you knew you were going to get shellacked
in Maine,
but
yeah, I think so. Home field advantage, home course advantage is such a huge deal, especially in New England when we're playing on like these weird courses that like you have to live on to know how to play. So we're playing at home. We're playing at Page Park in Bristol, Connecticut, and it's Page doesn't have a huge home course advantage just because it's like all the baskets you can like see, and there's no like weird lines or anything. But if you're playing at your home course, you should win most of the time. And I feel like we all play Page really well. This course, Page Park, it's like everybody's first course in Connecticut. It's the best course. It's so fun. You can play it in 45 minutes to an hour. There are a couple holes that are longer, so like you still get the challenge of like throwing. There's like one hole where you have to throw like 370 over a hill, and there's another hole it's like 350 uphill. So basically, you need 400-ish. Well, not quite. You need like 350 to 375-ish power to reach those holes. So it does let you stretch your arm out a little bit. It's just a wonderful course. It's really fun to play. But yeah, if we don't win, we'll be like kind of in a hole because then we'll be 0-2 because we've lost the first match of the year at Newton Hill in Worcester. So, which I missed because I went to the Warwick A tier. Like that's the thing is like I always make the choice to go to Warwick instead of playing the team challenge, but I know that the rest of my teammates didn't make that. We have a lot of pros.
Sacrifice,
yeah. Just because I love Warwick so much, I'd rather go play at Warwick than. Well, I filmed it this year, but like I'd rather go to Warwick than play Team Challenge because Warwick means a lot to me. But I know a lot of guys on my team are very good pros that probably would have played that Warwick A tier and didn't because of Team Challenge. So, yeah.
It's an interesting conundrum to be in your area. I mean, it's really cool that you have something to look forward to almost every month of the winter.
Oh yeah, it's a great way to just get outside for sure.
And you get to, that's a huge undertaking. Just in general.
It's a great way to be like when you're talking yourself into it in like September, you're like, oh yeah, I can definitely like sacrifice a weekend every winter month. Like that's not too bad. But then when you're actually in it and it's like January 1st or whatever, January 5th, and you're playing in Massachusetts when it's like 2 degrees, you're like, man, I wish I hadn't agreed to do this in September. Sorry about my cat. He's being annoying.
No, that's all right. Before we get Jordan on, we're going to bring him on in about 5 minutes. Let's quickly kind of talk about your other endeavor. You are the host of the Inside Line, which is an Ultra World podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about the podcast in your most recent episode.
So yeah, the podcast is generally about course design and courses and kind of like just thinking big picture about courses. They're kind of in the style of like an NPR podcast, like the Daily or 99% Invisible or something like that, where I just kind of like it's scripted, it's narrated. I'm like trying to tell a story. And yeah, I write out each one. I do like a voiceover, like it, and they're fun to make and produce. I really have a fun time making them, but people seem to like them. They're 25 to 30 minutes long, so they're pretty quick listens. But yeah, they're like story based. So like it's not just two people rambling on for 3 or 4 hours.
What are you saying, Mo?
It's a quick podcast that is like trying to like I hate wasting people's time. Like I don't want to. Every second of that podcast is like
it's
important.
It's dense.
Yeah, it's very thick,
purposeful.
Yeah, exactly. So like this past one was 32 minutes. So the one I just released on Monday was about Winthrop, and specifically hole 17 at Winthrop. Like not just Winthrop, the whole course. Like literally, we just talked about hole 17 for 32 minutes, and even 32 minutes was a bit long. But Harold Duvall, who I interviewed for the podcast, he talks on the slower side. He's from the South, but so he kind of take, which for me as a city person, I'm from Chicago and then moved to New York. Like you gotta go, man. You gotta go. Like, so like during that interview, I was like this. He was saying amazing stuff. Like it was really interesting and really great. But like my attention span is just going all over the place. But yeah, we just talked about that episode or that hole for 30 minutes about like, is it well designed? Is the like drama of that hole manufactured by the stroke and distance rule, which I know you've said before, that you don't necessarily like that hole.
Which is funny. I like the hole. I don't like the rule.
Oh, interesting.
The design of the hole is fine if you played it like we play every other hole in our sport. My big hang up with the USDGC has always been the sidestepping of the standard PDGA rules. And
interesting.
I don't mind the course. I don't love a lot of the, as they say, the manufactured, not even the drama, but the triple mandos and these type of things. I understand the purpose of them, and I understand the point of them, and I get why it's done. But I can live with that. What always bothers me is, for every spectator needs to have the hole map in front of them with the rules and the instructions, because if I go out of bounds on hole 7, it's different than if I go out of bounds on hole 8 or into the hazard or whatever you want to call it. It's very confusing, and I keep looking at it from a viewer perspective because that's the viewpoint I need to have. I need to make things clear, and I don't believe that the USDGC is necessarily great for viewers. It's great for disc golfers. I would never, ever show somebody that as their first event. It's just it's not good for them.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what we think of when we think of disc golf, right? Like when you out and play, you don't think of like ropes that are going to dictate kind of where you're throwing. You're thinking, I'm going to carve this line through the woods, or I'm going to maybe throw, like I know in Wisconsin, I'm going to throw in tall, like in a fairway cut out of tall prairie grass or whatever. It's not a very traditional type disc golf course, but I know when I was talking to Harold, he said that when he designed it, the whole point of him designing it was so that like spectators could watch. Like he wanted it to be a place where he could have spectators like lining fairways, which you can do a lot easier with ropes because it's pretty clear. Like here is where you can stand, here is where you cannot stand, which is a little more ambiguous when you're in the woods for sure. Like I know when we were at Smuggler's Notch, like on hole 16 on the Fox Run, like people are just standing like basically in the fairway, basically where people want to land, and that's a lot less. It's a lot easier to figure out when there are ropes there. But yeah, it was interesting. I think the conclusion I came to, and I do try and come to a conclusion by the end of each episode, is that hole 17 is fine. Hole 17 is good at USDGC. I don't know if it's a good hole anywhere else. It's a great hole at USDGC because like the whole point of the hole is to be a pressure cooker. The whole point is to test your mental strength, and it does that really well. But it wouldn't do that well at any other course other than Winthrop.
Yeah, and we saw years ago when 17 became kind of iconic, probably 7, 8 years ago, when it truly became like an iconic hole. Lots and lots of events tried to emulate that. And I mean, everything, maybe it was even longer ago, but we saw here in Wisconsin, one of our Madison courses, they just suddenly put up an island hole with hay bales. And all right, cool, you have to make it from there to there. And I thought, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't fit into this type of course. 17 is unique to USDGC, and I understand its purpose. I don't love it. I would love to see a slightly different. I was trying to think of this a couple weeks ago, where I believe that what I would love to see is throw from your normal tee pad, and if you don't make it, then you have to go to a drop zone or move the tee pad off, I think, to the back and to the right to help eliminate some. There's got to be a better way to design that particular hole to make it. I mean, and I get it. Everybody loves to watch people come to 17 and blow it. But
yeah,
I personally
it's very impactful. Yeah,
it's very impactful. But I kind of feel like you could be playing a stellar round of golf and lose it on one hole because you took a funny kick or roll off a hay bale, or because you just, you slid 2 extra inches and fell into the water. And it's just, it feels, to me, it almost feels bad.
Yeah, there's no. Well, that's exactly what Will said, actually. Will Schustrick. So I interviewed Paige Pierce, Will Schustrick, and Harold Duvall. And I think Will said exactly pretty much what you said, that, like, there are no good feelings associated with that hole. Like, it's very hard to have a good feeling because there's no reason. The risk is so high that there's no reason to ever try and land anything in the circle. You're just bailing out right. So the positive feeling associated with that hole is relief that you're going to get a par. It's not like happy I did something. There's no sense of accomplishment, really. So, and Will made the point that unless you're in, like, a type of situation where you do need to park it and, like, you're going one-on-one with someone, then it makes sense. But, like, except for that, it's kind of just relief that you didn't mess it up. And that's not necessarily, like, the kind of design that you want, right? Like, it's all risk, no reward, and that's why it's so stressful.
100%. So if you get the chance, everybody, please go out and listen to the Inside Line with Mo. We're going to bring on here. I'm going to try to bring in Jordan Castro into this call. Let's see if I can give him a call. We can bring him in. So Mo right now is on hold. We're going to see if we bring Jordan in and merge him into this call, and how that's going to work with my setup here, which I did not. Ooh, I probably should have thought of that first. All right. Jordan, you got to answer your phone. It says Jordan is unavailable. All right, let's resume the call with Mo. All right. We're going to have to figure out where Jordan is, because he did not answer his call. So, you still there, Mo?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, Jordan, when you are ready, please go ahead and give us a call, and we'll get you on. But so you are running an A tier next year, and let me ask you this: you used to work for ESPN.
I did.
You were the contact that many people had in order to get everybody on the top 10, or at least kind of get the ball rolling, we'll say. Do you have any contacts? You're running an A tier now with ESPN to help you out with the A tier at all, as far as sponsorship, or I don't say advertising, but is there any sort of connection between the two in the slightest at all?
Not this year. I mean, the city of Bristol was a sponsor this year. They gave us some money. But yeah, ESPN, no. So actually, I'm not going to be TDing TDing it next year. I kind of stepped down as TD. I'm going to give it to one of my really good friends who lives in Connecticut still. Like, I figured it would make sense for me to run it from New York. But he does work at ESPN currently, so maybe he can work that line a little bit more than I was able to. I mean, I know a bunch of people that work there still, but I didn't really look into it as a place for, like, a sponsorship. ESPN's pretty, like, I don't want to say they're tight for cash, because obviously they're not, but, like, they are operating at a deficit. Like, people are getting fired pretty often there. So
yeah, it feels funny to say that a company that's owned by Disney is tight for cash, but I understand the profit margins.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if they'd be willing to, like, throw $1,000 at a local A tier, but, like, I'll take $500. I'll take,
why not?
When you're fundraising, you got to get whatever you can get.
All right, we're gonna bring Jordan in now. He says he's ready, so let's bring Jordan in. I'm gonna give him a call. Okay, we have Jordan. There we go. Let's see if I can merge him into this call with Mo. worked before. Let's see here once. All right, hold on one second, Jordan. Oh, here's I see what I have to do. All right, Jordan, I'm gonna hang up with you real quick. I'll call you right back. I need to merge you into the call as opposed to having call you separately. That's my mistake. All right. There's a different button I need to push for Jordan. All right, let's bring Jordan on this way. All right, Jordan. Hold on one second. It's trying to connect up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Jordan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Can you guys hear me?
Can you hear Johnny B? I can't hear Johnny B, but I can hear you, Jordan.
Oh, there we go. Now
there we go. I can hear both.
Now, perfect. It just took a second for Skype to kick in everybody's thing. All right, Jordan, we just need your video actually now, I believe.
Boom.
Boom. There we go.
Is.
And then I just click this button and say, let's see here once. I believe. Well, let's get.
This is great. Just 3 Midwesterners talking about Frisbee.
I know, and it's. You'd think I'd have this set down by now in order to get everybody on, but I don't because I'm bad at this. All right, so let's.
Dude, you're operating in like 2 time zones and like 3 parts of the country. It's.
Well, I'm gonna do this for now, and we're gonna do active speaker. All right. Let's see, Jordan, you want to go ahead and talk for a second?
Hey, hola, I'm here.
All right, cool. All right. While this thing flips back and forth to the different shots, Jordan, welcome to the show. I'm gonna get Mo set up here on this shot,
yeah.
And
sounds good.
Yeah, how's everything going?
Good. Everything's going well. Just in Minnesota now, nice and cold. It's like what is it, 35 right now? Wind chill probably 25. So I mean, it's cold out here.
Yeah, that's what people always give me crap because I say New York is warm, and they're like, but I'm from Chicago, so like when people like I'm used to like right around now it should be like 25 to 30 degrees, but in New York it's like 50 right now. It's so nice, and it's
I'd be happy with 50 to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, man, how are you doing? Like, I know, like, how did you find out about you and DD splitting ways? Like, did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them saying like, hey, what's going on with next year? Like, how did that kind of come to be?
It was pretty much on. It was both ways, I think. So currently, I mean, we're still in agreement till end of the season because it's a year agreement too. So as a professional, I'm still gonna honor it too. So nobody's really called or texted me about it, like other manufacturers, but I've got a lot of support from other players and other like just friends and family. So it was super cool to honestly post about it. Then just everybody's like, "Whoa, what happened?" I was like, "Yeah, we're figuring it out." So you know as much as I do. So, but yeah, overall, it's just trying to motivate me and play better and work harder on and off the course. So
yeah, for sure.
You said your contract runs
so me
through
and
the
Johnny
end of
were
the
talking
year?
a little bit.
Yeah, yep. But today, like, pretty much parting ways is as in like what they meant is for the future, for like 2020 and beyond. So
go ahead, Mo, you had a question?
Okay. Yeah, so like me and Johnny were talking earlier about like kind of players in your position, like the 1020 to 1025 rated player that isn't necessarily like a name brand type player.
Yeah.
Kind of what, I know that this is like new to you, but like, or this like kind of situation, but what does the market kind of look like for your level of player right now in terms of kind of fielding offers from different players? Like,
That's
what do you
a
know?
good question. I mean, I'm still figuring out. A little breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
What'd you say again? Sorry, it like broke up.
Oh yeah, no worries. Just like, yeah, what have you found to be the market for a player of your kind of stature?
I feel like I haven't really got to my potential yet. It's just like I know I'm capable of throwing the shots and executing. Like this year, looking back, like I played great at Beaver State. I feel like that was my best performance. Then at Maine, I played well too. But like I feel like as a player, play well or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had one great round each tournament. But so like I'm still trying to figure that out too, because like us touring guys, we're all friends. So just like there's really no hard feelings about anybody. So it's new to me for sure.
Absolutely.
Is there a manufacturer? Are you going to go out now and reach out to other manufacturers, or are you going to sit and see if manufacturers reach out to you? Because I think someone of your caliber, as Mo was saying earlier, you're 10-20 rated, or you're up in that area, give or take a couple points probably. That there's got to be. I say that there's got to be a place for you.
For sure. And like that's what a lot of people said. They're like, good luck on the next adventure. But honestly, I'm just trying to kind of do what I was planning on doing this off season, just work hard in and out the gym. I mean, I've been home for 2 weeks and since Georgia, since the Hall of Fame. And I think I've been to the gym every day except 2 days just because I wasn't feeling well. So, I mean, I'm still grinding in there. Then we've had 5-6 nice days. So I'm still playing. I mean, I feel confident with my bag. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to change. I mean, who knows? A manufacturer could come to me or I can come to them. I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to kind of go day by day and just go with it, honestly. I'm kind of just like speechless. I don't know. Honestly, I've never been in this position too. So it's all new.
So what was dynamic? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mo.
What was, I don't know if you like feel comfortable saying this, but like, what was Dynamic's kind of level of compensation for you, and like, what are you looking for with your next manufacturer that signs you? Like, was Dynamic making, like, how hard was it being on the road for you, given what Dynamic was giving you? Like, what would you look for in a new offer from a new manufacturer, basically?
I think it varies for each level and each player too, because each person has different wants and needs compared to, like, say, where one player wants this, one player wants that. So I mean, it just varies, I think. So I mean, each manufacturer agreement contract is going to be around the same ballpark. It's just what are the little things. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, as you said, being 10-20, I mean, manufacturers are going to be, I think, looking, but I mean, end of the day, like I said, day by day, then go with it. Then once everything gets figured out, I'll let everybody know, I think. So
do you feel like your next year will be similar to this year, regardless of sponsor? Are you going to be out on the tour as much? Is it a lot of it going to depend on your sponsor? I mean, if let's just play pretend, and I don't think this is going to happen, but you don't get picked up by another manufacturer. Will you turn into more of a regional pro, or are you still going to hit the nationwide tour?
I think it depends and varies. I honestly don't know. I'm kind of just like working on this off season, then haven't really thought about it. But like this makes it a lot more to think about too, going on the road or being, like, say, a local scene. So it's gonna vary. And like usually when I'm on tour, I play one tournament a year in Minnesota. It like just because I'm never home, then like I played 2 or 3 tournaments already, unsanctioned, just kind of fun doubles or just kind of like team tournaments here in Minnesota already in the last week and a half. And I've seen everybody, and they're like, great year, awesome. They're just, the support is real. So just it's amazing to be back and everything.
Somebody asked on the board, Is there a manufacturer in the back of your head that you're hoping contacts you? Whether you don't have to say who it is, but is there someone that you have your eyes on, or are maybe crossing your fingers that they give you a call?
I think it depends, because I mean, I've thrown every brand out there. So I mean, whatever brand I'm going to do or not throw, it's going to be a process. Like, I have to work harder in the field, learning so many new discs. Or I mean, I still got a lot of throwers from all brands in my disc closet. So the discs that I used to throw versus the discs I didn't throw. So I went in there a few times to look and be like, oh, I remember this disc from, say, 2015, 2014. But like I said, my bag, I feel confident with my bag already. So if it changes, it changes. It doesn't, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It just, my bag's pretty much was the same all year. Took a few discs out, but like the molds were pretty much the same. So I'm confident with that.
Have you noticed, so me and Johnny B were talking about this earlier, have you noticed as these contracts have gotten a lot bigger for these top tier players, like the Macbeths and the Wysockies and the Sextons and whatnot, have you noticed that there's less money necessarily available for players like you and Luke Humphreys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, those guys are playing and taking it more as a job. Not saying I don't, but they're competing more. They're winning every tournament or taking top 10 at every event, compared to me, where just like, oh, barely cash, missed cash, 30th spot. But like, it's gonna have to work hard.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it. So.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's definitely worth it, right, for a manufacturer to invest in someone ahead of before they blow up, right?
Exactly.
How much free advertising not free advertising, but how much advertising did Dynamic get? Because Chris Clemens had like a super hot end of his year, right? Like,
for sure.
He was on like every Jomez League card. Like, it's very valuable to pick up a guy who is going to have that who's going to perform above his or her rating at the end of the year. So,
and even better, like traveling with Chris, like we played all year together and traveled together. So like watching him and seeing how he does it now, I mean, I know how he does it, but like to see how he does it every tournament is legit. It's awesome to see. And like, he's one of my good friends. So like, we talk all the time. I think we talked almost every day this off season already. So he was he didn't know about the really news either. So
yeah.
Has he reached out to you since
Yeah, he texted me already, and he's just like, whatever happens, man, it's gonna all work out, just like I told you. So, I mean, he has my back either way. So.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. I think a lot of our pros, I mean, regardless of who is on what team, I've said this to a couple different people, that I felt when you signed with DD, to me it felt right. It made a lot of sense based on the company and based on you. How the two of you commingled, so to speak. Not to say that you wouldn't fit any other team, but I think a lot of people outside of the pros kind of have a general feeling about each team, and they like to pick and put players on teams whether or not that's where they belong. You hear all the time about Nate Perkins, how he should be going to DD, or how Hannah should be moving to Discraft, just because these people, you guys all tour together. That doesn't necessarily always translate into what team you should be on, though.
Exactly. And we're all friends too, so just like we all know each other and support each other. And I think I had 10, 15 phone calls instantly I post, and I was like, all right, I'll call you back, I'll text you back or whatever. So it felt good to hear from those guys, like no matter what. Imagine if it was 3-year deal, 1-year deal, a new deal, or no deal at all, they're gonna support me either way. So
yeah, totally.
So Jordan, So this has obviously kind of been a surprise to you. What did you think was going to happen? Like, with your relationship with Dynamic? Like, were you just planning on going to the off season and just expecting that next year you were going to be on Dynamic as well?
Yeah, like I feel like a normal player should think of that way. Work hard, play well, and like when I first signed, like I was with Latitude, so trilogy based. Then the main goal was to get the DD after leaving Latitude, but it just kind of didn't work out. So I went to Innova, then came back with DD, and basically from the very first meeting, they're like, "We want you here for a long time." And then like that's what my plan was. Like that's my goal. This is the worst time to do it. Like it's always. Obviously, we're all thinking about like, oh, who's going where, but like, I wasn't expecting to be one of those guys. Now,
you weren't expecting to be free agent.
Yeah, this would be my fourth change if I do get a manufacturer or whatever.
They actually said that to you. They said that we expect you to see you here like a long time.
Similar, but not exact words, but like the concept wise.
And interesting. So do you think that this is? Do you think that
that was in? They said that when I first signed with DD 2 years ago, my first year with DD.
So do you think them ending this relationship? Do you think that says something necessarily about like how they're doing as a company?
It could be. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to speak on their side because I mean, obviously there's a reason, but who knows? I mean, like I said, they're a great company. I have no bad words to say about them. But when it's time to move on as a business and a player, they have to do what's best for them, and I have to do best for me, I think.
Yeah, as we've heard over the last couple of weeks, we've seen DD some positions shift around. We've seen Robert go from team manager over to marketing, and now Emac and Denise are kind of, I think they're working together as far as team manager for Dynamic. So there's always a lot of shifting going around, and obviously, you know, Jordan knows more than us than, you know, what's going on over at DD. But I'm sure we're going to see probably a few changes come and go, and like we said earlier, this could be one of those processes where they're trying to free up capital for a very, very high profile acquisition, or maybe it's just a reassessment of the entire team. For all we know, it's always very difficult to say. I think we'll probably know more.
I have no idea what their plan was or idea is. I've talked to a few people, and I know what they get or whatever, and so I think I can kind of base off that too. So moving forward,
yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of disc golf fans wish that contracts were more public, so we kind of knew
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
a lot of people know.
It would be better for you guys too, right? Because you could, because you all already know. So what's the difference if it's out in the public? Why do you think that disc golf contracts aren't made public unless like people, say them?
Yeah, I think I have mixed emotions on it, knowing what like other people get, but like kind of knowing what people get, because sometimes you perform better than them and sometimes you don't, and some people are paid higher than the others that should be. So it can go both ways, I think.
Yeah, there's so much that can go into sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely has
not just how you play, obviously, but the side stuff that you may do, whether it's running clinics and volunteering at schools or whatever it is. A lot of what our sponsorship now has become, it used to be just truly performance based. We're getting into an age where it really,
and now it's extra.
It's all that extra stuff. What can you drum up? How are you impacting, not just impacting the sport, but how are you impacting sales? How are you pushing social media wise? What is your pull that way? There are so many things now that play into a particular sponsorship of a player outside of just our play.
And like DD, it's probably was the best company to be that I've been with, honestly. I mean, all the extra things that we did, the clinics, the hanging out with the Junior Worlds kids, is just it's not going to feel the same, honestly, I think.
It's always hard to say until you're obviously until you're on the other side, because as to put it as an analogy,
exactly,
when you get when you break up with your girlfriend, no other girl is going to compare until the next girl, and then you eventually slowly kind of get over your your breakup. And I'm sure that's, you know, probably very similar to what you're going to experience with this being as sudden as it felt to you. I'm sure there will be, I guarantee you, there will be other manufacturers that reach out to you at your play and your exposure, because as you said, or as I said, it's not just about the play. You're a great player, but on top of that, you also have a reputation of being, you're very social media forward. You, as everyone jokes about, you're the first one to like almost everybody's comments, and on top of that, you have a great story with your dramatic physical change that you took over the last couple of years. So it's
for sure.
I think there's definitely room. I feel like I'm a salesperson. I need to be a manager, Jordan. So I'm gonna take 10%.
Yeah.
But on top of that,
I
was also thinking about your reputation, so to speak, or your history. You ran into a few spots where publicly you were criticized for doing things on the up and up, where you called some people on rules violations and foot faults where a lot of people don't. Do you I don't think it had anything to do with your sponsorship, but how do you feel that that impacted you publicly in general?
I think it's good that I called it, but bad that I got bashed for it. Like, that's the worst part of it too. Like, calling Kevin at the foot fault thing at Beaver State, and just like, I wasn't like, hey, look at his foot. I noticed it because he stepped on his disc, then turned him through. It's just like, I wasn't really paying attention to it, but like that orange disc slide and move, that's when I saw it. Then, I mean, people smoking and drinking, and just like, I do the right thing, get bashed for it. And just like, it made me think about it. Just like, I witnessed so many foot faults and just courtesy violations this year that I didn't call. And going back and just like, dude, I should do a better job of that. Just like, if they're gonna bash me, they're gonna bash me. It's just like, whatever. So I did a goal thing already, and number one goal is play by the rules, because last couple tournaments, if not last couple months, it just was hard for me to focus because I had to deal with people that were negative or were abusing the rules that nobody called their second. So it just like, it sucks, but our sport's getting bigger and bigger. I think we all have to do a better job of that on professional side and the lower side too. So the rules are there for a reason. So why not enforce them more?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like as a pro, when you're playing on these cards, are you like, is there like an air of it being a little scary to make that call because you know that the other three guys?
A little bit.
Interesting.
And it varies on who I'm playing with too, because some people are, I mean, they're other people and they look a little bit scarier, and just like they're your friends or like your people you don't like to play with. They're just, I don't know. It can go both ways.
Yeah, for sure. Do you, like, we're not in a spot where every card can have its own marshal necessarily, but like, do you think that would help? Have you had like just a rules official that went with each card or was on each hole?
Or would that could help for sure?
Okay.
I thought about that the other day too. Just like, imagine if we did that, but then you got to think that's what, 18
at least. Yeah.
At least. And are they going to be like official, approved, or whatever? I think, are they going to need to know all the rules and all that, or is this guy going to favor somebody or call it down the line? It's, I don't know, mixed emotions on it too.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you think we have a culture of everyone just calling everyone on everything and just acknowledging that like is literally part of the game? Like it feels like it feels more professional. It feels more adult to say like I'm going to call everyone on everything that happens because like that we're literally just following the rules that are set out. If everyone is calling everyone on everything, then it removes the stigma, right?
Yeah, it hurts the vibe on the card too. Like one of my rounds at in Vermont or USDC, I don't know, sometime on the East Coast, it just since hole 1 all the way to 18 didn't have the vibe and it hurt my performance. But another thing is I got to do a better job of that. So I've been doing a lot of reading lately since I've been home, reading almost every day. Chris sent me some books to read. I've been reading those, kind of like mental wise, focusing on my game. It's me versus the course type deals. So I think it'll help for the future, I think.
What do you think is probably the hardest part about touring for you? Is it the practice? Is it the monotony? Is it just in general getting by week to week? Where are the, I don't want to say the struggles because we all know that there are some struggles, but for you personally, where are the difficult portions?
Usually, I think it's usually a driving, honestly. Driving state to state and being gone for so long. I mean, the family, friends, all the guys back home, not seeing them for a long time. Like, this is the first time I've been home in 8 months, besides 2 times when I got braces, got my teeth pulled. So having to come home for just those 2 times and being home for a day or two, it sucks. Everybody's like, oh, you're in town? I was like, yeah, but I take off tomorrow, so I can't really see anybody. So I think the family and the road driving, because I mean, sometimes we'll drive 2 hours, 6 hours, 18. I think we did a 18-hour. Usually we do 18 if we have to get there. So 18 hours in one sitting.
Yeah, no thanks.
My bum's sore just thinking about that, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're not.
So like,
you're not that different, Mo. I mean, being a cameraman for CCDG.
18. Yeah. Yeah.
We fly everywhere though.
Yeah.
Fine.
But yeah, how do you get through an 18-hour drive, dude? You're just like jamming coffees and like sunflower seeds, or how are you doing it?
I used to do sunflower seeds, but now with the braces can't really do that. Usually we take off about 6 or something in the morning. Then depending on where we got to go, I think we try to get there by midnight. If we do 18, I travel with Chris. Sometimes he'll drive, sometimes he won't. I mean, putting on some good music, and I've been getting into coffee. Chris is getting me into that, so I've been drinking a lot of coffee lately. So energy drinks, and I just enjoy the traveling part, like sightseeing wise, not the actual driving. Because like you go through all these states and you're like, wow, that's super cool. Like this year we went to 5, 10, 15 new states that we've never been to before. So like exploring it for the first time is like, wow, I want to actually stay here for a couple days.
Yeah, absolutely. But you don't get to stay there a lot of the time.
It's just like another part of it's like it's a job, so we have to treat it like a job and get earlier the better. And like that's a thing that Chris was so happy about. I would drive most of the time, then we would get there when we need to get there. I think we had 2 or 3, 4 or 5 off weekends this year, and I might do a little bit more next year because I mean it's tough. I mean competing and playing constant week to week. I think Double G was saying he played 32 events straight before his first break.
Yeah, but that guy's an animal though. Like some people love disc golf. He like loves disc golf.
I agree.
One of the things, because I think a big misconception that a lot of people have is when you make disc golf your life professionally, that you get to play a lot of disc golf. But you actually you don't get to play disc golf anymore, right? Like you don't play disc golf anymore. Your job is disc golf. So when you're at a course, you're practicing. You're not having fun. You're not out there just enjoying it. You're like thinking about your shots. It's like very serious.
Exactly.
Like I don't know.
It's a different mindset than it used to be. Like when I first picked up my first disc, I had no idea. what anything was. I had no idea what sponsorships. Then I got sponsored then by a local company. Then, oh, you should play a tournament. It just slowly built up the ladder. And now it's just like, oh, this is super cool. I get to travel and play disc golf as a job and see everything and meet a lot of people. So pros and cons.
Pros and cons for sure. Let's just say hypothetically that no one signs you.
Yeah.
I filmed Cam Messerschmidt a few times these last few weeks, and he purposefully went through the year unsponsored and just wanted to like show off and be like, look how good I am, come sponsor me. Could you see yourself doing something like that?
For sure. And a lot of people bring up Nico too, the same way. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he has a sponsor this whole year or whatever, but he grinded all year, and I mean, he's kind of known for that too. So like I said, I'm going to take day by day. Then if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Then by the time first tournament comes and get sponsored or whatever, cool. If not, we're going to go. So
how much harder does touring become without a sponsor? Like, what exactly is different about your tour if you do not have a sponsor?
It could hurt for sure. It could hurt, but I mean, there's always a backup plan for sure. I mean, I've been thinking about it. Like, oh, what's this gonna happen, or what's like, I don't know, just a lot of things to think about. I mean, I have a good image, so no matter where we go, I mean, we have places to stay, and like that's so beneficial for us. Like I've met hundreds, if not thousands, of people all over the United States. So they're like, whenever you come through, hey, hit me up. You can stay at my house. We'll cook you dinner, give you a bed. So I mean, we have that taken care of. It's just the other stuff that we got to kind of take care of too.
Yeah, for sure.
Does this end up changing your off season at all? Someone on the board asks, a lot of times our players, obviously our top tier players are not getting off season jobs. And I didn't know what your plan was. Do you have an off season job, or was your plan to have one? And if not, is your plan to have one now?
I used to have one, but I probably, I was kind of waiting on to hear from DD to see what I wanted to do, because the decision was basically, do I stay 1 more month, 2 more months, 3 more months, or then to head to Arizona, just or wherever I go, Arizona, Texas, Florida, somewhere warm, because it's 25, and I was like, I'm not going to go play in layers or in wet grass and snow and whatever.
Dude,
and it's just like...
I think playing in the ice and snow is like kind of good for your game, though. I think it, like, having done it myself, I actually think it's good, like, it's helpful to be like, oh, I have to go really slow. I have to do everything like purposefully.
Yeah, it's a different kind of game for sure. But yeah, you learn a lot of it too. And I'm sure from being on the East Coast, but like when it's cold and my hands get cold fast, that's my number one thing. Hand warmers, gloves. I can wear shorts all year if I really want to, as I'm wearing shorts right now. There's a time in my life where I only owned shorts. So I played disc golf in shorts in the winter, 3 feet of snow. And they're like, you're crazy. I was like, I'm just so used to it. But yeah, I plan on just kind of keeping on what my plan was for next year. It's just work hard, often on the course, and then just to get ready for 2020. I mean, it changes a little bit, but I'm just going to kind of keep focused, like pretend like nothing happened, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you were touring with Chris Clemens.
Yeah.
Did his outlook change at all with his kind of big finish to the season? Do you know if he's going to DD and saying like, look at what I did at USDGC, look at what I did at Worlds, like, look at what I did at all these tournaments. I won this A tier in Maine. Like, has that kind of changed his negotiating power with the DD?
I think it helped for sure. I know what we talk. I mean, we're like I said, we're best friends, so we talk all the time. Like, I know personally what he's doing or whatever, but I'm just trying to let him kind of explain it for himself. But yeah, I think it had a huge impact for this next. For the future for him.
Awesome. Yeah. I've never related to anyone more than Chris Clemens when I think Steve Hill was interviewing him at USDGC, and Steve was like, you seem like a pretty chill dude, man. Like, what stresses
Yeah.
you out? You're winning USDGC. How are you not stressed out? And he was like, dude, this doesn't stress me out, but like paying taxes stresses me out, and like
It does. It does.
being an
Yeah.
adult stresses me out. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that's my guy right there. Like,
Yeah. No,
like,
yeah. And like you tell him something, he'll do it. So like that's why we got along so well. Just like, hey, we're doing this. He's like, all right, cool. He's just like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Speechless. Mind blowing.
Seems like the most laid back dude.
Yeah, he is. He is.
You
I
guys
was so bummed when he
you guys
decided
are
when
such
he
millennials.
signed up for Greater Hartford. I know, right?
We were signed up for that tournament. Then we took the weekend off because we went to New York City.
Yeah.
And part of me wishes that we would have played that tournament because New York City was crazy.
New York City is crazy.
That was our first time going there, and I don't know if we want to go back. To be honest,
that's where I live.
Yeah, I remember that. But like riding the buses, the Ubers, the subway, like walking through the Bronx. We got off at the wrong subway station. We had to walk like 30 blocks through like Harlem and whatever. And it was the craziest thing ever. Like crazy.
Yeah, that's New York City is crazy, but once you get used to it, it's actually kind of great.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's a disc golf course away from being a great place to live because there's no disc golf here. But
that's what our host said. We were staying on the New Jersey side, so we just had. So he told us about everything, and it worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, what's your like? This is weird to say, but like, what's your kind of dream manufacturer? Like, if you wake up tomorrow and you get a phone call from someone and it's like, oh shoot, it's I don't know, Discraft or whatever. Like, what company would you like to give you a call?
I mean, I've thrown every disc out there pretty much, except all the new ones. So like, I've thrown Innova, I threw Discraft, I threw Prodigy, and obviously I threw Trilogy. So I mean, all those, and I threw MVP once at the we do a kind of a league bag swap. So you draw a mini, and that's what bag you get, and I've thrown it. So like, all the discs are good. You just gotta get used to them or whatever. So honestly, I mean, I could be fine with either. I mean, I have friends at every company, and they've already done it. They've already reached out to their guys already. They're like, hey, we need to get this guy or whatever. So like having to hear that, just like, all right, cool, that's good to know. But if it happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of,
sure.
especially being in the position you are. You're a well-liked player by a lot of the other players. You have a lot. You will have ins in that aspect for other manufacturers to go after.
For sure.
I don't know if there's. I don't know what else we can. I don't know what else we need to cover with you, Jordan. Are any events in the winter? I know you said that in Minnesota there's always winter events. We all know that. Everyone puts a ribbon on their disc and throws it so you can find it in the snow. And what's the next big event for you over there?
I've never done that, but I've heard of people
really?
do that. I've never done it. No, just it's weird to me. But I've seen people do it. I've seen people sleds, put skis on the Delta carts and Zuka carts or whatever. It's like I said, it's a different game. People sometimes use chalk or even like glow tape. And
that's what I was gonna say, dude.
Yeah.
So me and my buddy Joe Madursky, who I think is actually on the board right now, we used to do that where you put like glow chalk on your disc, and then it makes like a color when it goes into the snow. And it's amazing.
When the disc goes in the snow, it's like a torpedo. You have to check 3 feet in any direction to see how far it slid.
Exactly.
Especially on some new snow. But yeah, I think there's a few Minnesota tournaments, like some ice bowls or whatever, but depending on the weather, how it is. But I mean, we still got pretty much a month or so until it gets really cold. So, I mean, there's no snow on the ground. So every day it's sunny and above 30, 40 degrees, I'm out there playing. I think
exactly.
My last time playing was 2 days ago, and it felt great, like throwing the shots. And I feel like the last tournament at this year, Hall of Fame, my mindset was great. I felt like it was the best it's been all year. Like, not worrying about the negative and worrying about the positive. And I think I had 4 putts from 70 that went in and didn't miss a putt inside the circle. I was like, just transfer that to all year and you're there, man. And
Yeah, for sure.
but like I was bad off the tee, obviously, but it's just one thing after another I got to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Vegas might be on the number one. Memorial, depending. I haven't really looked at the full schedule yet, but I might do Vegas. I might do Memorial as my first ones. There might be some C tiers in the winter, but 10-20, you don't want to hurt that right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to start grinding too soon, you know?
Yeah, unless you pop out a couple 1040s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude, that was like, so this is my first year kind of going on all around the country and watching disc golf everywhere. And I think the thing that was shocking to me is how good you have to be at disc golf to like have no one know who you are. Like you have to be amazing just to like, it really kind of put into perspective how good guys like McMath and guys like Wysocki, like those really top tier dudes who are always at the top, like they're so insanely good. Because I filmed Marweed at the River City Open in Michigan, and he was like incredible. He made that course look like really easy, and you think this is the best player in the world. How can anybody beat this guy? And then he goes to the next week and he's like in like 70th place at a tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the disc golf on the tour. Just like one great tournament, one bad tournament. It's just who plays the consistent. And like I played with pretty much every pro out there. You name them, I played with them. So like I've learned every single thing from one thing, at least from every single person. So putting it all together is just something I have to do.
I'm actually kind of interested in this. What discs are you going to miss if, like, let's say you do get signed up by Discraft or whoever? What dynamic discs are you going to be like, man, I'm missing my Felon, I'm missing my Truth, whatever? Like, what are your kind of staples in your bag right now that'll be hard to replace?
The Fuse is obviously the Fuse is a huge slow understable disc. I can pretty much do anything. It's kind of like a Comet type disc.
I was going to say that,
yeah. Enforcer, I mean, when I first started, I threw the Force. So I just just transferred it over. Oh, it says Force in it, so it must be like a Force, and it was. So the Enforcer. But every company makes great discs, so I just have to get used to them.
Yeah, there's just subtle.
Those two are the main two.
Yeah, there'll just be subtle changes between different discs, whether you need to, like you said, find one that's brand new, or maybe if you go with another company, or when you go with another company, just maybe if you need to beat a specific disc in just a touch or something along those lines. And
all those guys on every team, like, if I'm a new member, they'll be like, hey dude, I got tons of discs, come pick them out. So I mean, it's way easier as a used disc than a new disc. So like sometimes when I order a disc, just like, oh, this is what I need. I need it to be like ordered a Criminal the other day. This is gonna go left no matter what, compared to, say, I don't know, a Renegade, which is kind of like flippy or understable driver. Just like, hopefully it's really flippy or it's gonna be break in. So it just varies for sure compared to I get a used one from Eric or beat in Felon or something.
And you'll have that no matter what team you go to.
Because the shot selection, like the hyzer flip to go straight, then to turn, versus the Criminal turn, kind of dump way faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at coming up now, obviously in the off season, you're going to probably tour next year. When are you hoping? I guess I'll say, I'm sure you're hoping tomorrow, but what is your goal to be? To have a new manufacturer behind you? What is your expectation? I guess not necessarily goal, but what is your expectation for having a manufacturer so that you can get the discs, that you can practice with the discs and learn it so you are ready by the tour? When do you feel that needs to happen by? Hope it happens by.
It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 2 weeks before the tournament. I would say if it happened a week before Vegas, week before Memorial, I'm going to probably be in the field all week, then on the course most of the time, just to kind of get to know them. Because, like I said, new discs are tough. I mean, I have to get used to them for sure. And it could affect the play. It could help the play. If it happens tomorrow, sweet, cool. I mean, that'd be awesome to happen like that. But it could not. Everything happens for a reason, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan, do you have any spicy disc golf news that you know that the rest of us would not be privy to as a member of the disc golf public, like, or as a member of the disc golf pros? What do you know that we're gonna know in like a few weeks? Is there spicy stuff out there?
There is some stuff coming, I think.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm kind of good at social media, so like I went through a bit and put it all together. And like I said, we're all friends, so we know. So, but I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna let those guys do it. But yeah, I was really surprised at a few of them. I'd be like, oh wow, cool. But so then another one, I think so, yeah.
Stuff it has happened already.
It's like happening, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely,
where's Drew Gibson going?
I have heard
he's going to be. Just kidding.
I have heard that it's not going to be like it was last year, but there is definitely some big names that are going to be, I don't want to say shocking, but there's going to be some surprises from my understanding. And Jordan is right that, we're hopefully we'll get some of these people on Smashbox. Maybe if we're lucky to make a nice little announcement. But I have definitely heard a few things that will make people.
I didn't see Drew's. If I didn't see Drew's post today, I probably wouldn't have posted. But since he posted, I was like, what the heck? Let's do it. Then phone blew up instantly. It still is. That's why I keep swiping up, because everybody's like, hey, can we talk? Can we talk?
I thought you were trying to clean off your lens.
No. Everybody's like, dude, what's going on? I talked to 15 people already on the phone for 25 minutes. So since I posted at 6, the phone's just off.
That's got to be awesome, though.
It is. It's super cool. Like yeah, super cool. Some of the families we stayed with and some of the team members, the junior members called me. So that was super cool to hear from them. And they're like, we're going to support you either way, man. You're a good person. So that's always a huge confidence booster and everything.
That's huge, dude. Come to Connecticut. Come play, play some Connecticut
Give me on
events.
Team Challenge.
Yo, TDH2, Jordan Castro.
My buddy Casey, he's flying in tomorrow, so all he does is talk to Team Challenge.
He's one of the pros that dropped out of my tournament because he decided to play Team Challenge. Yeah. No, I mean,
we were all together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a big deal. Casey loves being on camera too, so I was like shocked when I'm like, dude, we're filming this tournament, and you'll probably be on lead card. And the fact that Casey was still like, no, dude, but Team Challenge, like that shows you how much Team Challenge means to people out here.
Yeah, and we kind of have that same thing here, but it's only one day compared to you guys are 2-3 months and go all over.
Yeah. 6 months.
My bad.
Yeah, it's like September to like April. With finals in April. But yeah, dude.
It looks epic. Sounds epic.
It is pretty epic. Anyway, I don't want to get into it.
But
10 friend requests right there.
All right, Jordan.
Jeez, really? Gosh, Jordan.
I mean,
I gained so much.
I don't know if there's much else that we have to talk to you about tonight. We got through obviously the news. It's interesting that you chose to announce it because you saw Drew Gibson announce, and considering that your contract is still, you're still technically under contract. I don't think. We talked. Actually, I'll ask you one more question, and then we'll let you go. But Mo and I discussed about contracts. Do you think the first of the year is the right time of the year, or do you think now is a better time of the year for contract renewals and announcements?
I could have like hyped it a little bit, but like I said, I saw his post and I was like, if he's doing it, then might as well. I mean, I think it will blow up social media. I think, and if I waited till the first, I think it could have been too late for another opportunity with another manufacturer. So like now the news is out. I mean, companies could hit me up and be like, hey, come to the warehouse and let's have a meeting or whatever, compared to the first where it's just like, all right, you got a month and a half, if that, to work with this, and especially if the meetings go longer than you expected. So
should this be Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Should this be something that the PDGA is like legislating? Like I know in the NBA they have like a moratorium. They have like July 31st. You can't talk to
It
free
could be.
agents.
That'd be kind of
July,
cool.
right? And
But
then
social
yeah.
media would blow up. Everybody's phone would be blowing up.
Well, yeah, because like everyone's
I've seen hundreds of people's posts like, this madness is crazy. It's only November or whatever, October.
because like everyone's gonna try and jump on everyone, and it's gonna keep on getting earlier and earlier until it's gonna be like March, and you guys are talking to sponsors for the next year.
Yeah.
Like it's
like I said, I haven't talked to anybody. It's just like I'm gonna honor the agreement till the end of the year. But if someone comes up and goes, I mean, I'm not playing for the rest of the year, so they're tournament wise.
yeah.
I don't think.
Don't do that, Jordan. Look out for you. If someone gives you the bag, take it. Like we're millennials. If someone gives it to you, you got to take it.
6-2, Washington.
Oh, really? So the Nationals are beating the Astros right now 6-2. Okay. I was curious what you were talking 6-2 at first, but then it finally hit me that we have Game 7 of the World Series going on tonight.
I'm watching it, YouTube TV.
Okay, Jordan.
City of Champions, Washington D.C. Right?
I'm gonna pass on that one.
That's a joke.
I know. There's so many political jokes we could make at that point. But Jordan, thank you for joining the show tonight. Much appreciated, especially on a day today when you're,
no problem.
as you know, I'm gonna keep doing this just so I can be like Jordan and just swiping up on my phone. Exactly.
No more.
That
I put it on silent right now.
Oh,
I should have done that the first time.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So again, on your big news,
like you can see, I'm still in a good mood about it. So life's good either way. I'm still happy. It's affecting a little bit, but end of the day, we're gonna keep grinding, working hard.
Absolutely, man. Do it for all the Midwestern homies.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. All right, Jordan, have yourself a good night.
So thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And when I figure something out, I'll maybe we can get an exclusive Smashbox in there.
Oh, most definitely, of course. This is the place to go for announcements. That's what we're saying. There's really nowhere else to go, honestly. we're other than I think DD. I think we might be the only live disc golf show. I'm not sure. I know they do Answer Man, and that's live.
News and Brews.
Oh yeah, you could. That's true. You could do disc golf News and Brews with Murder Mike and Carl with the beanie. Carl's gonna be so
I had one
mad
more
at me.
question actually.
What's up?
I just thought of one more thing. Would you consider being sponsored by like not necessarily a manufacturer, but like a retailer? Like we haven't seen that before, but like
we
Marshall
have
Street
Dave
or
Felberg.
something.
Dave Felberg is sponsored by
Infinite. Sun King or something.
I've had retailers in the past for sure. I know Dave's with Infinite too, so I mean, it could be another option there.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, I've had sponsors where we're not allowed to have retailers, and some that allow it. Same with bag sponsors. Same concept. Because the company is a retailer. So, I mean, and that's what the agreement asks for, and I'm fine with it. So it's pretty much whatever the manufacturer, retailer wants to do. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Jordan. Have a good night. Good luck to whatever team you're rooting for.
Thank you.
And we will catch you back here when you get that call, or when you want to make the announcement that you are switching to a new manufacturer, because I do believe that's going to happen.
I'm just kidding.
Otherwise, we'll watch it on News and Brews.
Sure.
All right. All right, Jordan. Have a good night. All right. Oh, let's do this. That is the worst that is the worst frozen Jordan face that we could have. So this should fix it. There we go. It's so interesting, the dynamic now. Honestly, didn't mean that pun. The dynamics of Jordan's situation, because with his contract running through whenever it runs the end of the year, and announcing now, he's now given himself basically 2 months worth of negotiating time. And especially if he's not going to play in a tournament, because once once you make that announcement that you won't be back, he's going to be able to practice the rest of the year with whatever new discs he gets. That is, it's an interesting situation for sure, especially considering with Drew, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if Drew was let go from Innova or if Drew has chosen to move to another manufacturer, if he was wooed away or if he has pursued something else. Drew didn't make it quite clear.
Yeah, I think with Drew, it's interesting because he's so clearly demonstrated a preference for Innova discs, right? Like, because when he was throwing, I think it was Dynamic, he like complained early and often about their discs not being like, you know, stable enough for his arm speed, and he needs very specific discs for the way he throws. So like, it's just interesting because I mean, I'm pretty sure when he's at Innova, he's clearly thinking I'm throwing the best discs. So it kind of makes sense to me that he would go to like an Innova subsidiary, like a Discmania or someone, or a Millennium, or maybe not Millennium, but like someone that is also making Innova-ish frisbees. Like,
yeah, I think a lot of that is in Drew's head, and that's what it takes for a top tier. You need to think, as he said, he needs to go out on that course and think he's the best that's out there, and he needs to think he's throwing the best plastic, because I think that comment that the discs weren't stable enough for him, I don't buy that. Not in the slightest, because we know that Dynamic has plenty of overstable discs. They might just not have the disc that he is the most comfortable with, and that's a perfect complaint to have if you're a player. If you're not comfortable with the discs, that's fine. If you take discs, you're right though. I will be curious to see how he reacts depending on where he's going. If he's moving to, and I don't know why I feel this way. Maybe because I know that UC in general was courting, or has been in talks with Nico. That I do feel like Drew seems like he may be a good fit into into Discmania. I don't believe he's going back to Dynamic anytime soon. But going to Discmania, you're right. That seems like it's a fit. Like that seems like two puzzle pieces to me. But I'm also falling into that same thing I had said about outsiders looking at our pros and saying, well, that person looks like they'd really be a good spot in this company or this team because they just have that vibe. I'm probably falling into that as well, but Discmania does seem like an obvious choice to me.
Interesting. I don't know. Discmania always struck me as a company that's like has a little bit less budget wise to spend on players, because they don't make their own discs. Like they essentially rent out manufacturing, which is expensive. Like the whole way that these companies make money is the margins on making your own disc and then selling it for extraordinarily cheap, like selling it for a lot more than what you make it for. So I mean, it just seemed to me like they are investing a ton in Simon and Eagle and making making those two guys kind of like the faces of their franchise. I'll be interested if they invest in anyone else, because that kind of takes away a little bit of the glow from Eagle and Simon, don't you think?
I don't know. It's really hard to take away the glow from Eagle and Simon, particularly. They are such shining stars that it feels, and they're the, I mean, you're right though, they are the focus of the company. Anyone that goes to Discmania, including people who are already there, like your Nate Perkins, they have to realize where the spotlight is. It's not them. It is Simon and Eagle. Those are the Crush Boys. Those are the people that everybody wants to see. Nate Perkins is a fantastic person. He is a great player. I was going to say a good player. He's a great player. But he will always be second fiddle.
But he's kind of in the same vibe as Jordan Castro. He's kind of in that same mold, right? Like,
yeah, but they will always play second fiddle to those guys unless somehow they pull down a major. But even so, Eagle has a major. Simon does not yet have a major, I don't believe, but he has all the other things. He has the personality and the public persona. No matter who signs
all
with...
the intangibles, yeah.
All the intangibles, you're right. Anyone that signs with Discmania is second fiddle to them. Unless you're Paul Macbeth or Ricky Wysocki.
Although I think it's interesting that Discmania does a pretty job of like manufacturing discs for all their players. Like Dana White Vici, one of my favorite people in the entire world. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Dana. Dana got his own disc, right? And Dana doesn't tour. Dana doesn't play a lot of big events. Dana isn't like the sexiest is not the right word because Dana, very good looking man, but he's not the sexiest player. You know what I mean? Like,
I am so going to hear from
disc
Dana about this whole
stamp.
conversation. But no, but you know what
I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like his game is not like very flashy. His game is not super fun necessarily to like see big shots or whatever. It's very consistent and like steady, but that doesn't sell plastic necessarily. And he got his own disc from Discmania. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really interesting that they, you know, they support their players in that way. Even Dana and Nate.
I agree. I thought it was awesome that Dana got his own disc. I also thought it was unique because you haven't seen that in the past, but I think manufacturers now realize that is almost becoming a standard. That, I mean, if you look at what Dynamic is doing with their Lucid X runs, with all the different players, they all had their own logo, and you could buy a specific Lucid X to sponsor a player, but almost all of their players, their touring players, had their own series disc. You had like the AJ Waffle and the Paige Bjerkes Judge and the I'm trying to think of what Paige Pierce's disc was. I want to say is it the Suspect?
Convict.
Thank you, the Convict. But I mean, a lot of them had their own disc, and I think manufacturers now just see that as, if we want to keep these players and keep them happy, we need this. This is a base level thing. But looking at Dynamite, it is unique because he's not a touring player. He is more of an employee than anything else. It feels like he works with selling the courses and the baskets, and he does a lot of the shows that they go to, the nationwide gym shows and all that other stuff. I'm drawing blanks. That's all Terry's side. He does a lot of that stuff as well. But the fact that Dana got his own disc I think it's awesome, and it's definitely going to be unique. I think we're finally starting to get to a point in our sport where the manufacturers are feeling pressure, where it's never been that way before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it just kind of keeps it keeps like kind of ticking up, right? Like it keeps on going marginally upwards and upwards, right? It's like that kind of economics concept where like someone offers you a cent and then someone else offers you a cent more, and then it just keeps on going and going until you get to that natural equilibrium kind of on its own. We'll get to a point where we figure out the value really quick of what these players are actually worth, and it's turning out that they're worth quite a bit, because the companies wouldn't be investing this money if they weren't seeing that money on the back end. So we have evidence now how much a player is worth, because we know Macbeth signed for X amount. Like we know that's how much he's worth. We know how much players are worth because when a disc is stamped with Paige Pierce's name on it, it's selling a lot better than when it's not, because Dynamic wouldn't be investing. Like that's how much it's worth to them, is the amount of investment they put in making those discs, which can't be cheap. So, it's good that there's this much money being involved and this much money changing hands. It just does lead to kind of awkward situations where, like what Jordan was talking about, it used to be we're all like friends out here playing disc golf, and that's not the case anymore, dude. Like you can't be friends with someone. Well, you can be, but like you have to also respect the other players, and even if they're your friend, you got to call them on stuff. You got to call them on these footballs, because it's not just $5 changing hands; it's $500, and that is kind of where we're in this weird, awkward kind of adolescence phase where the money is getting to a point where you can't necessarily just be chummy with your card mates.
It's
in the same way.
Oh yeah, I agree, and it's funny when Jordan brought up, and you think about these players that I guess we can kind of equate it to Major League sports, but you see what this player makes. They all know what we've said it before, they almost all know what each other makes, at least like a baseline. And the public doesn't necessarily know.
They know, but we don't.
But we don't, correct. They know. So they know that, you know, we're going to make up numbers. 2 years ago, Jordan Castro signed for $10,000. Now, this year, we'll say, another 10-20 rated player comes in and signs for $12,000. Well, Jordan's looking and says, well, I'm just as good as him. Why aren't I getting $12,000? But the way the sport is growing, salaries are always being bumped up. And you see the same thing. The best player in the NFL 3 years ago signed for $10 million less than the best player in the NFL signed for this year, or whatever those numbers are. It's going to start getting to be a very unique situation. And I have always advocated that it only helps the players to make the contracts more public. Macbeth has said the same thing, but it's hard to take him seriously only because he's the top of the mountain. He's looking down on every other player's contract.
He's so far, yeah.
He's so far removed from everyone else.
Yeah, so far beyond everyone else.
And he can say that because, for the most part, his contract is public. I think everybody knows he's making 4 years, $250,000 a year. And then on top of that, he makes a couple bucks per disc, I think, sold with his name on it. Or his line of discs, I believe it is. I don't know the exact number there. It might be $2. It might be $5. I don't know if anything's ever come out or if he said that on the... I don't know if I just got in trouble or not. I don't know. We'll see. If Paul calls me tomorrow and yells at me...
whatever. It's just a lot.
But it's a lot. I mean,
but he's worth it.
Rumor has it, and I don't know this for all, but that Discraft's already made their money back on him. That's $1 million. That this
easily.
year...
Dude, at every shop I went to, it was just like racks and racks of Macbeth discs that were just like they couldn't hold on to. It was like the half empty rack because people had already bought so many of them. Like they couldn't hold on to them. And you get paid what you're worth, dude. Like I'm a big believer in like get your money because you're paid what you're worth. And like I'm a big believer in Jordan Castro going to these companies and saying like, pay me this much or I'm gonna walk. Like just know what, just I don't know. I don't think it's okay for. There's a little bit of that in the sport where sometimes we see fans who are like, oh well, I don't want my players like getting old. Like, it's almost getting too big too fast for them. But like, no, dude, these companies are making a lot of money. Like it's not charity when they give you stuff. Like they're paying you because you're making them money too. So Macbeth is worth that much. He's literally like, it's not like, oh wow, Macbeth's making so much. To me, he's making like how much he should be making. Like it's just, that's like literally what he's worth.
Correct. It's I mean, for all we know, I mean, he signed for what he signed for, and that's what he's worth. But is looking back on it now with 2020 vision, let's just say that now Discraft has made back their money, their $1 million that they invested, or how much ever they're going to pay him. He's got 3 years left on his contract. That now,
exactly.
Do we think, you know, looking back, can we say, oh, well, actually, Paul's probably worth even more? Or
100%.
What's the right profit margin for the manufacturer is really the tough question. You know, should Paul have signed for $2 million? You know, is Discraft going to make $10 million off of Paul Macbeth, or are they going to make $3 million over the? You know, it's so hard to say because we can only look in the past and we can't quite look in the future. This would be such a way easier sport. It's really
like I think Innova, if you ask Innova like, hey, we're gonna give you that same deal again, you can match this $250 for 4, and you ask them like, hey, do this, like here's another shot at it, they would 100% say yeah
in a heartbeat. Like assuming that, yes, if it was solely up to Innova's decision, I think in a heartbeat they do that because they had their prime rival in Discraft. They had them on the floor. You know, nobody. I don't want to say nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
But Discraft was not nearly as well regarded with their plastic 2 years ago as they were this past year. It's just the truth. I love Discraft discs. I made a commercial about how much I liked their discs, and I've always liked their discs. I was on, so I'm on the bandwagon well before Paul. But in general, the rest of the public wasn't as enticed to buy anything other than a Buzz. Like, if it wasn't a Buzz, most people probably give or take. They didn't care about the Undertaker. They didn't care about the Heat. They didn't care about anything other than that. Maybe a little bit of Comets thanks to MJ, but once Paul comes in, all those discs become hot. Paul brings his own discs in now, the Malta, the Zeus. It's still the Zeus, isn't it? No, the Annex. It changed. Anyway, and those are all hot discs now. Like, Innova had their prime rival on the floor. Paul moved. I can't say that Innova let him go, because I don't know what happened between him and Innova, that, if it was just a money thing or if there was anything behind the scenes. But Paul's now with Discraft, and Discraft is making a revival. It's just the way it goes. So yes, Innova, if they have they had the opportunity, they keep another manufacturer down if they can. That's common. That's business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think Innova quite saw how important Paul was, which is maybe just because they had him for all that time. Maybe they didn't quite see how impactful it was to have him on as a part of their brand. But I also think Paul's the kind of guy that maybe wanted to change things up just to like shake things up, because I know Paul loves doing that. I know he's got that kind of personality where he loves like doing something crazy and proving people wrong. He probably loved that.
And Hannah, who's on the board right now, whether anyone likes to admit it or not, Paul Macbeth is a troll. He likes to troll. He does it so subtly. There is a thread on Disc Golf Course Review about people changing sponsors, and there's all this talk about who should go where, and does this person fit this team and this and that, and all this other stuff. Paul jumped on there and just posted a popcorn emoji. Just, he's sitting watching, and he's chuckling, and he knows the moves that are, because like Jordan said, Jordan knows what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of these players know what's going on behind the scenes, and it's really, they have the respect to let the players make these announcements. So Paul likes to just a little bit, he likes to troll once in a while, and he knows what is going on. It's fun. It's fun to be on this side and be able to watch. Do you think, I think tonight's the night of contracts we'll talk about. Do you think there's really a place yet for a true, like a Drew Rosenhaus of disc golf, a disc golf agent who works with all the manufacturers? Like,
yeah. Well, I think what we need before we need Drew Rosenhaus is we need like a disc golf Woj. Like, I think we're honestly like a disc golf, like, we need a person breaking all this news like as soon as they find it out, because then that just pushes everyone to make these deals faster, and that is actually, I feel like, more important than the agent at this point. Like, in the agent becomes important when like you're trying to, like I said, I was talking to Ricky Steeler about this. Ricky Steeler is a prodigy pro. He's like 990 rated pro out of Buffalo. And we were kind of having this discussion about like, how do you kind of, because his contract is up at the end of this year. And he was saying like, man, I wish I had an agent so I could like, because I don't want to offend like Prodigy, who I've been with this whole year, by saying like, this is what this other company is offering me. But like, we got to get over that. Like, as a sport, like, for first of all, but like I think more valuable to the sport right now would be like a disc golf Woj, to just be like, even before Jordan broke his news, just someone saying like, Jordan Castro, Dynamic Discs no longer a partner, like just getting that out ahead of time, so that then Innova's like, oh shoot, Jordan Castro's available, I'm gonna go talk to Jordan Castro right now. Then Jordan Castro says, Jordan, here's $15K a year, whatever. And then the disc golf Woj make that public, and then Dynamic sees it. I think the public information part is more important than the agent part at this point, because the public information kind of solves the agent part. Does that make sense?
It does. I think, you know, the Jay Glazer analogy, who gets all these phone calls and whatnot. The problem we have is right now, someone like that breaks some news. Jay Glazer or whomever comes out and says, "Oh, you know, Antonio Brown has been released," and he's the first one to announce it. That information could have come from 20 different people in the chain. Our chains are so small. It's basically...
It's too small. Yeah, we're too small right now.
Because it's basically team manager and player, and those are the two that talk. So if somebody breaks that news before the player does, that news came from one of two people. And so it's hard. That type of job, I think, would be difficult in our sport, unless everybody, so to speak, picked one person to make like all these announcements, as opposed to, like I said, an agent who I think would have maybe a better idea of what everybody is worth, whether it's public or not. You know, I know if I'm Jordan's agent and I know he's making $15K or $10K or $50K, whatever that is, and I know his contract is coming up at the end of the year, you're right, in September or even July or June, I'm reaching out to manufacturers saying, hey, guess what? My agent, or my client, I'm sorry, he's done at the end of the year. This is what he's done. This is where he goes. Let's work. And that takes a lot of the pressure off of the player to do that. It takes pressure. It might take pressure off the manufacturers, because the manufacturers, I think there's a... They like I said, they don't really care about, you know, a stigma of reaching out to players who are still under contract that early in the season. But we're such a small sport, and I think that there's room to grow for new positions, and being able to say Jordan's worth this because I know, you know, what he's rated, what he does, and I know what Chris Clemens is rated, and I'm his agent too, and I know what he's worth. Being able to push those numbers up, hopefully, I think there is room for a middleman. And I know we saw DGI come in this last year with their splash and their players, and
what happened for them?
Great question. Basically nothing. Like I can't speak for Paul, because I know Paul had talked about kind of working with an agent, and it might be the DGI guys, but talking to Ulibarri, he basically kind of just shrugged it off, like, yeah, nothing happened. Nothing really became of it. There were no outside. They didn't really get any outside sponsors for most of their players. It was a great effort. I don't believe anybody was out anything, but nothing was also gained.
That's good.
So I'm just
I mean, the outside sponsor thing, that's kind of the real money. That's why I was asking Jordan about that, because I was like, dude, like, I think we might think too small about this stuff. Like, why do you need to have like a disc manufacturer necessarily? Like, why not just have like 5 different sponsors that all sponsored? Like, this is the official soft drink of Jordan Castro when he's on the road is like Gatorade. This is the official bag of Jordan Castro is his grip bag or his upper park bag. This is the official like car of Jordan Castro while he's touring is this like Toyota Prius or whatever. Like, I don't know, just like think bigger about all the different ways you can sell yourself. Like, you are a product when you're an athlete. You are an industry. You are like a corporate. Like, at least in the NBA, they always talk about like you are a corporation as soon as you get your first contract. You're a multi-million-dollar corporation, and you should think of yourself that way. Now, obviously, we're a much smaller scale, but like Paul McBeth is literally $1 million corporation. Like, he should think of himself as that, as like, I am an employer of people. Like, like, Paul is one of the few people I think it makes sense to have all those things available, like the agent and like all the different little individual sponsors as part of the deal. I was talking to Hannah about this actually in Vermont, but I think like Paul is in such a unique position, and it's weird to say, but like, I just think Paul like is so far beyond everyone else that it kind of makes disc golf seem bigger than it is almost. Like, Paul is like Paul's all the way over here in professional. I'm trying to show it so it's a little like on the screen. Paul's all the way over here in professional athlete land, and everyone else is still kind of like, and there are maybe 5 or 6 players that are on that same kind of.
There's not.
Well, no, I'm saying like Paul's way out there, and the 5 to 6 are just kind of still also in professional athlete land. But everyone else, this is like a hobby, and that essentially it's a hobby where you might break even.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Is that not accurate? I don't know.
I think it's almost accurate. I think you're right. Paul's a corporation. He is his own. He's his own engine. I think Ricky's close, not close to Paul, but I think Paul is head and shoulders. But I think Ricky's on that same path because we've seen Ricky. He has someone that does his clothing, his sake bomb stuff. Like he's employing other people, family members, and stuff like that. There's not another person like that. There's like you can look at your even. I think that I look at all the players, and I believe if I were to take a guess, other than Paul, I think Ricky's probably the next best paid, and then probably Nate Sexton. And Sexton doesn't have any of that.
Probably like Simon and Eagle on that.
Yes, I think Simon and Eagle are probably right under that. And I only say that because I know Sexton is team captain. He has the Firebirds, which do outrageous numbers. He is he does a lot of the Jomez stuff. He is he's very well respected and liked, and the viewers love him, and rightfully so. And I think he is probably the next closest. Amazing. But I don't think Nate Sexton has probably anybody working for him doing anything other than what.
No.
I mean, I know the Jomez discs, the big sexy discs. I assume he gets some sort of cut of that, but that's all done through Jomez and Jonathan's brother Chris, I believe, who runs that organization behind the scenes for shipping and stuff. So I don't know. I see Paul and Ricky doing their thing with people under them, and I don't see another person like that.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I was scared about when I was at ESPN and disc golf got on top 10 and disc golf started being on ESPN regularly, and one of the things that kind of terrified me, honestly, when people kept on messaging me about like, hey, man, we could do this, is I was scared that I had tricked people into thinking that disc golf was bigger than it was. Because that's a big trap, is you invest and you treat it like a sport that is ahead of where it is. I think we're in a very important part of like this last 5 years and the next 5 years are super, super important for disc golf, because I don't know that we're going to have another Macbeth, honestly. Like he's very, very, very special. Like his personality, the way he plays, the way he conducts himself, the way he is at like giving interviews and with the media and all that. And we have the fact that we have him, we have Simon, we have Eagle, and they're all kind of in their primes right around now. Like Paul's kind of in the twilight. Disc golf, I mean, I'm saying disc golf is like a young person's sport. Like you have to be quick and fast and have these quick twitch muscles. He can't keep doing this for forever. Like, it's not like ball golf. Disc golf is a much quicker, faster game. Like at a certain point, Paul will drop off, and that's going to be really, really bad for disc golf. So we need to kind of capitalize on Paul while we have him. And sorry if it sounds like I'm just like the biggest Paul homer in the world, but like I deal with professional athletes all the time. I used to work at ESPN, right? Like I used to see them walking down the hall. I used to work literally in the same room with them on NBA Tonight. I was in a room with Antonio Davis. I was in a room with Chauncey Billups and Jalen Rose, and just talking to them. And like I can tell when professional athletes give off a different vibe, and nobody on the disc golf course gives off that vibe except for Paul, except for Paige Pierce. So those are the two very, very important athletes who are both 29 and like 28 or something, 29 and 30. And it's really important that we take advantage of them while we have them.
You're right. And I think about the future of Paul, because in my mind, right now, I think Paul easily has another 5 to 7 years where he can be dominant. Like, that's probably and again, let me say this, that's in my head. I don't know if in 3 years we're going to see such an uptick in the quality of young players that they're going to catch up to Paul, and Paul won't be dominant in 3 years. I don't know where the sport is moving. I like to think that Paul's consistency will keep him up there, like a Barry Schultz, a Johnny McRae, Ken Climo when he was in his first couple of years of Masters, that he can still perform when he's 36, 37, at the level that whatever these new 21-year-old players are doing. But I don't know if that's the case. I truly don't. Like, so you are 100% right in that. One, we should be enjoying. I say it because I'm a fan of Paul. We should be enjoying the dominance that he has, and watching what he's doing for the sport, not just on the course, but how he's taking care of things around the course. But I don't know. It's so hard to tell. I didn't think we'd ever see another Climo, and I feel like Macbeth is at that level, if not more. We're in a different time period with social media and all that other stuff, so it's a different, it's completely different. But who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting kind of moment in the sport, and it has been for the last few years. Like I don't know. I never thought I could do disc golf as a job, and I kind of did this year. Like, it's so like I didn't exactly make it. Like, I couldn't have done this without my girlfriend supporting me, but like I was able to kind of jump in, and I'd not drown right away, right? Like, and that was pretty impressive to me as a person from the outside looking in. When people told me like, oh, you can make this much money doing this, I was like, dang, if they're paying me this much money, that must mean that they have much more than this much money, which means that they're getting much more than that much money from all these sponsors and whatnot. So it was impressive to me for sure, this being my first kind of year in it.
And is your plan to do this again next year? I mean, you're in a perfect position. You just did your first full tour as a media person, mostly cameraman and then editor. Do you think that you could do this another year? Is that in the plans for you?
I don't know. I really enjoy the freelancing kind of lifestyle. I like it'd be tough for me to go back to a job that I have to be at every day, for sure. I really enjoy traveling, but yeah, the pay is just like, not that it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just like, it's tough. You have to like work every weekend. Like, I know people like complain, oh, you have to work every weekend, boo-hoo. But like, when you're working these gigs, like, you are working, dude. Like, especially with Central Coast, like, it's like, imagine if you worked 5 days, but every day it was like 16 hours. Like, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, you guys basically work three to 4 days. There's not quite at that enough.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not to mention the prep coming in, and then like you have to stay later because we'd release our videos on Monday. But yeah, it's weird. There's not quite enough like a big events, like, right? Like, there's only like 20-ish events, and it's just not quite sustainable at that level. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm still. I think this next month will be really important for me. I'm gonna be applying to jobs here in New York City and trying to see if I can find something. Like, but I'm not like hunting in desperation, right? Like, it's not like if I don't get anything, I'll be really upset, because next year Ian has already told me, like, yeah, you can come work for me at Central Coast next year if you're up for it. So, yeah, well, I mean, this next month is going to be really important. We'll see what happens. If I get a job that makes it financially impossible for me to do the Central Coast thing again, like, then I'll take that job. But yeah, I don't know. I had a kind of a normal job with ABC for like a minute, and I did that job for about 2 weeks, and I told them, like, I can't do this. Like, this is like,
really,
actually, yeah, it actually, like, yeah, I was working, I was doing like, what was it? I think it was like noon to 9 or something, like second shift. And it was like a normal job. It was just you come in, you sit at a desk, and you do stuff. And I could not handle it. Like I couldn't handle like I couldn't handle someone telling me like do this thing, because like the way my brain works is like as soon as someone tells me to do something, I'm like, well, why am I doing it? And if they just tell me that you're doing it because we have to do it because this is the way our workflow is, then that really bothers me. And I
there's pros and cons to
freelancing was
that.
a lot better for me as a person.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to that type
for sure.
of
Like I think freelancing was better for me in that. Yeah, 100%. But like, I really like the fact that like my gigs, like it is like I like that project based kind of thing where you have this gig, this is your job, and you do the crap out of that job for like 3 days. And you do it perfectly and you do it really well because your next job depends on it. Like I hate it when it's like do this thing and just do it until you're done, and if you don't finish it, you'll do it tomorrow, whatever. Like like I hate it when at ABC when they were telling me like, okay, yeah, you just do it until 9 and then you can just leave. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not done with the thing yet. And it's like, oh, it's fine. There's someone else to do it. Just do it until. And I'm like, what? How am I different than a factory worker at that point? Like, like I don't know. That's why I like kind of these more project based gigs. But
it's funny because right now, in disc golf, obviously it feels like the slow season for everybody. Even to myself, it feels that way a little bit. But today other than my 9-to-5 job where I sit at a desk and answer tech questions because I'm the IT manager, during my lunch hour, I had 2 meetings with streaming media companies about disc golf for next year. You know, I'm talking to these companies to figure out what type of future does disc golf have in the streaming media. Is our future on YouTube? Is our future in pay-per-view? Is our future in, are we moving along the same lines of like, should we be moving more towards like a Patreon model, or what, where do things go from here? And some of it's just getting feelers out there, introducing kind of these streaming companies to our sport, calling them and being like, yeah, this is what we do. This is kind of the workflow and this is what we're looking for. And them going, I've never heard of this sport before. How big is it? And you're like, well, you depends who you ask. Are we the fastest growing sport in the world, or are we just the fastest growing sport in Wisconsin? I don't know, because everybody thinks they're the fastest growing sport. Depends on metrics and what you're measuring. But there is so much off season happening behind the scenes right now that's going to affect the next few years behind the scenes. Like, I know what I would do if I had my way. Play pretend I bought the Pro Tour right now, 100%. I'd lock it all down. Every bit of media that comes out of the Pro Tour would be behind a paywall. That's what I would do. And I don't and that's not going to happen. I know that. But to me, that's, in my head, the way I've run through everything, that's the right model. I just feel like we're
how do you?
Yeah, like, I don't know. What was your question?
How do you mean a paywall?
Like,
how do you? Sorry, I know we're still on on like a 3 or 4 second lag, so I apologize to anyone who's watching and is like, why is there these weird pauses? But how do you mean a paywall necessarily? Like, because I think there's 2 models you can do that millennials, which is that's like the disc golf market, right? Is like these young people. That's why it's so valuable and why it's important. You can either make it free, because we grew up on YouTube and grew up on Twitch, right? Like 2 very free ways that you can do things. Twitch has subs, which is, I'm sure you know this because you've been researching it, but like I like the Twitch model where like you can just watch the thing for free, but if you want to like interact and you want to be part of the kind of community, then you have to sub. That's super valuable. Or you can do like the Netflix model where it's just, it's like $5 a month and then you auto pay it and you don't even think about it. those are like the only ways I could see it really working. Like if you're saying paywall, like I have to pay, like I have to actually actively go and do the thing of paying the $3 to watch the thing. That's not going to work. I can just tell you that right now.
Yeah,
but,
no,
if it's the Twitch model where you can watch it and then pay extra to have certain features, or if you do the Netflix model where you're paying $5 a month or whatever, just so long you don't have to actively do the thing. I think something we've learned in economics and we've learned in sociology is like doing the thing of paying for the thing is so hard. Like the difference between like checking the box, like I think they did a study where it was like you can either it was either like an option to like check a box to get a thing, or to not check a box and you get the thing automatically. And if the option was check the box to get the thing, like 70% fewer people did it. Like just literally just clicking, yes, I want this thing that is free. People wouldn't just click a box. Like, and we've done studies on that. So the fewer barriers to people getting the thing that they want is like hugely important.
Yes, I'm 100% in agreement. My thought process and model is more along the Netflix line. Like you pay a yearly subscription, or a monthly if you so choose. Like that is, to me, that makes the most sense. And putting all of media, whether it's live, post-production, highlights, recaps, all that stuff behind a paywall. Like I like that model personally, but I also understand, as Ray on their board was talking about, the Idlewild is a perfect example this year of the Twitch model. Even though we were on YouTube, where we had Robert and Dixon doing the live, and as someone super chatted, they called them out. Oh, I'd like to thank Ray for your $3 donation. Woohoo! And that drove subscriptions. That drove more super chat because people were being recognized, and it really kind of made it go. But I don't believe that's a sustainable model. Like I do like the subs idea for Twitch, and YouTube has a very similar model as well. It's called memberships, but it's basically identical to Twitch subs, and that could work. Someone's sneaking around in the back.
That's my girlfriend.
That
I feel like it's like 12:30 in New York City.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, and I think that could work. But you get people that will kick back and say, "Well, that's not. I don't want to hear that. That's not professional." And it's sometimes it might be younger people, it might be older people that aren't used to that Twitch model. But I think having to me, the Netflix model seems right. Being able to log on to my computer, to my Roku, to my Apple TV, and saying, okay, what's on right now? Click, okay, cool. I can watch these events. Or I can have a lean back experience. I click on it, and it's just a stream of stuff that is random, like a television station. Or, hey, I want to go watch Paul Macbeth clips. Click, do a search for Macbeth. Hey, there's his 2019 highlight reel. It's 58 shots. Even though it's way more than that, trust me. Of Paul Macbeth. Oh, I want to watch all Circle 2 putts. Click. Cool. Here's a list of every Circle 2 putt that was highlight this year. And I can just hit play and watch him go. And all that stuff is at my fingertips. Like that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
And right now I'm talking to people about it. And I don't think, again, not that I don't think, I almost know for a fact that that's not how the Pro Tour is going to go. But I'm looking for I'm trying to establish relationships for long term. Like, hey, what can we do to move forward? What can we do for the future? Whether it's not this year, maybe it's next year, maybe it's the year after, because we need to start finding a way to make it financially feasible for people like you who are going to work 25 weekends a year to be able to do this year after year. And right now I know we've said it before, there's basically one media outlet that is financially in the positive, and it's Jomez, and they're doing a fantastic job with with their subs and their Patreon and the manufacturers and their advertising. They're killing it. But I don't trust that model is going to last. Like, I've been around long enough to know that what's popular right now might not be popular in 5 years. So post-production's really popular right now. It might stay popular. That might move over to live. Depends on it all depends on the depends on the kids, because every generation is different. So what's working,
Right.
what works for your parents doesn't work for me. What works for me isn't going to work for my kid. And I know that. And I can only try to go where the ball is going to be. Sometimes I'm going to be right and sometimes I'm going to be wrong. And I don't know where that is yet.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I don't think Ian would be mad at me to say Central Coast is also in the positive. Central Coast is doing pretty well as well. I know it's kind of doesn't look like that because Jonas just flew past us, but like Central Coast also does pretty well for itself. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting that you said that because like I feel like I watched less post-produced this year than I have in 5 or 6 years. Maybe that's because I'm in disc golf and I'm at these tournaments now. But I also just I feel like I get less of a kick out of, like, I can't sit there for like 30 minutes and like watch these shots. Like, if I already know what happened, like I can't just sit here and watch Paul win if I know what happened. And like, you know, live is great in that way that you can be part of like a experience with people. I think that's like ultimately what people are going to be. That's ultimately what people are going to gravitate towards, is having experiences with other people, right? Because you can't replicate that anywhere else. I think why Jomas has been so successful is because they do a really good job, or part of the reason why they've been so successful is they do a really good job of cultivating that community where you feel like you're experiencing it with other people. Mm-hmm. You know, you feel like you're experiencing this tournament with your community. And live is the only other place where that really is happening, where I'm watching it with all these people at the same time. Just like that's why basketball is so popular right now. It's like really easy to watch a game, log on Twitter, and have a conversation with 1,000 other people about the game. You know, the game is exciting, but I'll be honest, when I'm watching basketball, like I'm the most locked in basketball fan. I used to be literally my job. I watch the game with Twitter up. Like I watch the game with like one eye on the game and one eye on Twitter, because like the enjoyment of it, a big part of it is interacting with everyone while we're watching the game. So yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting thing, is like who's going to figure out the interactive part of it first. Like who's going to figure out, like, and that's why live is great, because you have this little chat board, but like I want to be able to throw the live up on my TV and chat on my phone. I want there to be Twitter that I can be interacting with. I want there to be like a conversation that I can have at the same time, and that doesn't exist anywhere. And that's just the problem of scale. I feel like just disc golf's not big enough to have that conversation because there's not enough disc golf fans. But you do have that conversation a little bit on Jomez. There's a little bit in like the Jomez comments. There's a little bit on their social media where like you feel like you're interacting with this group of people. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the type of media that's going to be popular. Like it doesn't exist yet. Like I don't know, man. Like post-produce is weird. Like that's not like a thing that exists anywhere else in any other sport. Like you don't watch the 10-minute highlights of a basketball game after the fact.
Most people don't. You're right. I mean, they do exist. You can subscribe to MLB or NFL and get the chopped up game the next day. It's out there. It exists. It definitely
within the
does.
hour, not just the next day. You can get the highlights of the.
Yes. Usually, I think and you'll forgive me. I know a lot of highlights are, but there are actual. Is it exact shot for shot? Because I know with like the NFL, it's usually, I think it's the next morning. You get literally the whole game with out any breaks. It's just snap, 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 snap. Like, and maybe that's available within.
I know, and Oh, I know an hour after, like less than an hour, like really, really quickly after an NBA game is over, you get a 10-minute highlight with all the, not just all the, it's not all the shots, it's like all the relevant shots. So it's like
Okay.
probably half of the shots in the game. Like you miss some like layups and stuff, but like and that's like an hour after the thing. And I watch those a lot if I miss the game live. But like, yeah, I'm watching these games live for the most part. I don't know, man. It's so interesting. It's like trying to figure out where media is going, man. I love these kind of discussions. Like, I just want to sit in a room with like 6 people and just like have like a little bottle, like have like a pillow. That you only get to talk if you're holding the pillow, and then we all just pass it around and talk about like all our ideas and stuff. But like these tech powwows that they have. But yeah, I don't know if disc golf is weirdly ahead of the curve or like we talked about this at GBO. Is disc golf ahead of the curve with post produced, or are we like just going to catch up to something that doesn't exist yet, or where are we going? So
I think you're right in that. I don't know if we found the right model, because I truly believe the right model is some sort of interactivity. We've seen it with our chat board, and Jomez tries to reproduce that with the YouTube premieres, where they put it out there and everybody will hit it at the same time and be able to chat. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. And
that might be it actually.
And that could be. It could be like, hey, guess what? We're going to release this. You're going to get the half-hour version or the 40 or 50-minute, whatever they are these days, and everyone's going to do it. But I think there's always something inherently missing about post-produced. Like, just because it happened already. Like, there's just even with the community, there's just there's to me it's the heart, but that might not be with everybody. The heart's gone. Like, I already know what happened, and even if I don't, I know it already happened. And I think live is and I understand the downsides of it. I'm not blind. I understand the timing and the length. I think live is a better option. I just don't know if we're there for live yet as far as what we need. Because what we need is more cards covered. What we need is, I have a vision, but that vision is expensive. And it's not 18 cards covered. It's like 2 or 3, but my vision is basically 2 or 3 first cards. Cool. You've got me, the commentators, and cameramen working card 1. There's another me, there's another commentator, and there's another set of cameramen working card 2. And if you want to go watch card 2, you go watch card 2, and they have their own commercials, and they have their own thing going on.
Oh, you're saying you pick your feeds?
You pick your feeds. And if you want, you bounce back.
So
you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
if we can get just, to me, I think you get the top 3 cards covered like that, and that is pretty sufficient, and maybe a static camera at whatever the exciting hole is of the course. For USDGC, it'd be hole 17. For GBO, it's what, hole 16? Well, it was at the country club. It's the island hole, or wherever it's going to be the next one. Like, you just find one really cool spot, and then you kind of you just have that run all day long. And you log into whatever service, and you get to sit and choose. Cool, I want to watch this. Oh, man, these guys, they suck. Like, I don't want to watch them. Oh, look, Drew Gibson's on the second card. Click. I want to watch Drew yell at somebody. You know? And just, it's that type of, I think, interactivity. But you need a community to do that. You need a central hub, whether it's a Discord, a Slack, a chat channel, a Twitter feed, a whatever that is. That's, I believe that you're right, that is where the experience comes in, where you need to feel like you're part of a group. And it's all about,
you know what, I think
finances.
You know what I think a real issue with live might be, and I thought about this a lot this year, is that, so like when you're watching the Masters or you're watching the US Open or whatever, any of these big prestigious ball golf tournaments, like a big part of watching the NBA or golf or anything is that it's like a little bit of wish fulfillment, right? It's a little bit of like, I will never be able to play Augusta, so I'm going to watch this. The difference is with disc golf, like when you're watching the Vibram or the MVP Open, I got to put $1 in the jar now. Whenever you're watching the MVP Open, I can go play Maple. Like Maple's $20. Like it's not like it's this big prestigious country club. I think that's the biggest difference between disc golf and ball golf right now is like if I'm much more likely to watch ball golf on TV because a ball golf round cost at that club that they're playing at will cost me $150. Bethpage Black or Torrey Pines, whatever. At our most prestigious, our most important tournaments are held on courses that you can go play for $10-15. So like, there's not that element of like, I'll never be able to do this, so let me experience this on a TV. Like, you can always go play disc golf very easily, and it's very accessible. And that's one of the great things about it, but it's also one of the reasons that, like, I bet you your live numbers are, like, way down on nice days. Like, because, like, it's so easy to go play disc golf. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty easy to justify sitting there and watching ball golf, because I can't go play ball golf a lot of the time because it's really expensive if I'm a ball golfer. But like, if I'm a disc golfer, my course is 10 minutes down the road, man. I'm going to go drive and go play for free. If I watch it for 5 minutes, I get the bug. I can go do it really quickly. So I don't know. That's, I think, one of the biggest issues with live is just the structure of our sport. It makes it like there's less of that wish fulfillment aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there, in that our sport is it's so easy to play and do what it is. I just, yeah, I don't know what I don't know what the future of live or post-production holds, because you're right, post-production has the built-in, it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to watch some disc golf. That's the time that you can't just go out and do it. And I think, I mean, I have the ability right now to record a round, and I can have the post-production up in an hour. I've done it. I can do a smash cut without a problem, you know, and it's, and then people can watch it that night. And we've seen some people are interested in it, and some people aren't. But I think that there's definitely room to grow with disc golf and media. I just don't know if I don't know how we get there. Let me put it that way, because it's an interesting position to be in when, and I know you guys have seen it at Central Coast, and I'm not faulting Jomez by any means for what they're doing, because they're killing it. But when one team is getting so big that it sometimes feels like the other teams are getting drowned out, like, because they don't get, you know, I said it a couple weeks ago when I said the PDGA has basically already just said, no, we're cool with Jomez. That's who we're going with. There's no option. There's no one else. Well, there is other people. There's Gatekeeper and Central Coast, but the PDGA doesn't want to see that, because they want to be on the place with the most eyeballs. And I don't blame them. But is that, and fair is a funny word, is that fair? Is that hurting every other company? Is the PDGA cutting themselves off at the knees short term or long term to be there short term? And I don't blame them, because if you know, Jomez is the solution right now. They are the they have the most eyeballs on them, and they do a phenomenal job. But it's really an interesting place that we're in. And I do believe that every company should be doing exactly what they can to get what they can, because as I said, I don't know where the ball is going to be in 2 years. So if for some reason something happens and Jomez can't tour, where does that leave everybody? Or what happens if Smashbox stops doing live?
Exactly. There's a huge vacuum.
Where's the live? There's a huge vacuum at that point. Or if all of us are gone for some reason, and suddenly everyone's on TikTok, we're watching disc golf in 5-second spots. Like, cool, there's a drive, there's a putt, there's a drive, there's a putt. Like, I don't know what the I don't know what our future holds. So I'm 100% in the aspect of, if you're doing well, keep doing what you're doing. You know, don't worry about other people. So it's nice to try. You know, I've been trying to work with Ian for years, and it's just a matter of, you know, finding the right combination and doing what we can do. So there's a lot. This off season is going to be fun. I know that.
Yeah, I know, yeah, last off season was fun. This off season is going to be fun too. I mean, yeah, it's cool that we have gotten to the point in the sport where the off seasons are like almost as interesting as the sport. Like I feel like our season ends in December now, like November, December, as opposed to when it, you know what I mean? Like legit, there's news and stuff is happening. There's stuff to talk about till December. So you really only have like a 2-month off season from January, February. But yeah, dude, Ian's the best person. Like if you're trying to work with him, Ian's literally the best person.
It's not even
He's
just
such
to
a
work
good
with them.
Human being. Like he's just got like heart of gold.
He is. It's gold is too hard of a substance for Ian's heart. The dude is hands down one of the best people in our sport, if not in general. I mean, I only know him a sliver just from talking with him and working with him, and he's always been super accommodating. No one's ever said a bad word about Ian. And then you follow him on social media, and he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I think we're adopting two of these kids because," and you're like, Ian is literally a saint. I believe. I truly believe he's a saint.
No, he's a good dude for sure.
And I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, but other than that, and he's phenomenal. So. Yeah.
So it's actually funny. I had some. So I filmed the Warwick Championships this year, and the Firefly Hollow Open. So two A tiers out here in New England, and I finished Warwick like the week after it was done. I try and finish every tournament within a week. So I had it all done. And I was like, all right, Ian, the tournament's there. It's ready for you to do commentary on in our Google folder. And he's going to do the commentary with Steve Brinster because obviously it's Warwick. You have to do it with Steve Brinster. And he was like, oh, yeah, dude, sure. I got it. I'm like, all right, cool. And then like the week passed, and I was like, hey, did you reach out to Steve? Yeah. Did you set up a date for when you guys are going to do the commentary? And he's like, oh, no, dude, I adopted 2 kids. I can't do commentary right now. And I was like, dude. Like seriously, whenever the commentary happens, that's fine. Like you focus on, like I can't even imagine having 1 kid. I have 1 cat, and it takes like 95% of my time. And like having 1 child and then tripling the number of children that you have is like insane, dude. So like I don't think anyone appreciates Ian enough that he basically runs a company in his like spare time, because he has like a full-time job. He has like a real legit full-time job, and he like just runs this other company. It's insane. It's like I mean it's a lot. Like whenever anyone gets on Central Coast for being like late, or oh you guys didn't do this on time or whatever, it's like, yeah, well this dude has like his literal 9 to 5. He's doing this like in his spare time. So yeah, I don't know.
We'd all like.
I'm a big Ian fan, as we all are.
Yeah, I mean, this is our Ian appreciation podcast. We'd all love, including Ian, we'd all love for disc golf to be our full-time job. And we you know, there's no easy route to get there. Every route requires other people's help, whether it's, you know, cameramen or whether it's viewers. You know, Jomez wouldn't be doing what they're doing without their Patreon support. You know, it's Smashbox wouldn't be doing what we're doing without Patreon, and I am, someone jokingly called me Scrooge Van Derzen, but I feel like the avenue is no longer, or can't always be, ask for money. Like, oh, can you please give me this? I'm showing this to you. It's to me, it almost has to turn into, there's something out there, and if you want to see it, you have to pay for it. Maybe. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm running to where the ball. Maybe I'm running to where the ball isn't going to be. But, you know, it's not cheap to do what we're all doing. You know, Jomez has a $250,000 trailer.
Yeah.
And Ian pays for flights for you guys to get out to locations, and relies on sponsors and Patreon, and there's a lot to be done.
Yeah, like when all these guys were talking about I got to drive my car across the country, I was like, yeah, I'm flying everywhere, dude. Like we're doing well enough that I got to fly to Grand Rapids. I got to fly, like not even film like big tournaments, to film like the River City Open, which is a really cool tournament. I filmed the Music City Open this year. You know, it was just an A tier this year. I filmed that, and like I flew to Nashville, I flew to Grand Rapids, and I stayed in someone's house. Like, it's not like I'm staying in like a deluxe hotel in the sky or whatever, but like still flying there, renting a car. So it's still like pricey endeavors for sure. And to make it financially feasible, to make sense for all the parties involved is, it's getting there. It's definitely getting there.
It's definitely getting there. The bigger we get, the more options there will be. That's pretty cool. That's what I say. Well, yeah, I think that
for sure. Yeah, I wonder what. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's that lag.
I know.
No, I just wonder where there's going to be some equilibrium point where it's not going to grow anymore, and we just have to like get there, and like it's very dangerous to get there and not realize that it's the equilibrium, but it's also very valuable to not be there yet and know where the equilibrium is going to be. So it's like that's media is like it's a tight wire act, man. It's like lots of money going very fast, and that's why it's a very exciting industry to be in, but it's also like pretty dangerous because you could Deadspin's like doesn't exist anymore. Like, it took like a week, and Deadspin's not a company. ESPN quietly fired like half of their like talent like this past year, like a lot of producers and stuff. So it's a very dangerous industry to be in, this like media prediction business, because if you're wrong, you make a misstep, you stand to lose a lot, but you also stand to gain a lot. So ask Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whoever.
All the media companies, or you can just be as big as Facebook, and then at some point, everyone turns against you because you've become the monster, and you make some shady business decisions or whatever that is.
Yeah, but at least you made billions of dollars along the way, so I'll wipe my tears away with my dollars. Like, it'll be fine with my $100 bills. But yeah, I feel like that should have all been in an after show. Can we like retroactively do the after show thing and then like put it in the thing? Or the after show is my favorite part of the show.
I don't have this kind of just all.
I feel like, but that was the after show.
It really was, honestly. It's. And that tends to happen more when either I'm by myself or I have, or Terry's not around, that I don't think about saying, now's a good time to cut the show, because when Terry's here, he dominates usually the interviews. So I have a lot more time to think and say, okay, well, or what I'm doing, what people don't see a lot of times is underneath the camera, I'm doing like, come on, Terry, let's wrap this up, and we can cut it and we'll go into the after show. And nobody sees me do that down here like what I'm doing right now. But Terry sees it. And it makes it for it definitely makes for difference. And so we can roll that stuff into the after show, which is funny because I have a new end screen that I'm going to play with, and I'm going to, part of the whole YouTube stuff is where everyone puts these little end screens on, and we haven't really done it for the podcast before. So I created an end screen that I need to go back now tomorrow and add all these goofy YouTube stuff to once it processes. So it's all the little things that you have. You don't realize how much little stuff there is to do until you really start digging into what you can do.
Oh, 100%. That's what I realized with producing these Central Coast videos, like all these little graphics that you don't realize exist until you have to make them. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Johnny V.
Dude,
I definitely could. No one could ever fill Terry Miller's spot. Like, I just want to let Terry know that this is purely a one-time thing, and I feel dirty for having been here. Like, I've sullied Terry Miller's spot, and like, can't wait for next week where I get to hear Terry Miller, Johnny V, the melodic voices just going back and forth. It's my favorite podcast in the world.
Talking about, as my wife says, because she was down here for half the podcast while we were talking, she looks at me once in a while and just shakes her head, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm just like, "We just talk, So, all right, Mo.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Michelle said the exact same thing. I was like, I just had Smashbox playing while I was like doing the dishes or something, and she was like, because you guys were talking about like a lost disc. Who were you talking to last week? Dickerson. Yeah, you're talking to Dickerson, and he had like lost a disc, and you were just talking about like him looking for this disc. And Michelle looks at me and she's like, "This is the worst podcast I've ever heard in my entire life."
She's not
I
wrong.
was like,
She's,
yeah, you know, like
if we were,
because like the experience of looking for a disc is so awful, and now you're talking about it, and I was like, no, this is great. This is exactly the content I'm looking for.
you're not wrong, because if you were to lay out a podcast and say, as you do that, and you say, well, these are the things we're going to talk about with our guest. Nowhere does that come up. Nowhere do you say, when was the last time you lost a disc? And sit and listen to an 8-minute talk about him losing a disc, finding a spider into his face, not going back. But I tell everybody about the different podcasts in disc golf. I say, take the TV show Watchmen right now, that's like in its 3rd episode. There are already 15 different Watchmen podcasts to talk about that TV show. You can go on iTunes, and I saw someone, post a screenshot, and they're all talking probably about very similar things. With disc golf, I feel like right now we still haven't really hit an overlap as to what each podcast really gets out of it. Like, the closest things I see are the PGA podcast and Ultra World. I feel they kind of overlap a little bit, but every podcast brings a different aspect to our sport. Like your Inside Line is very unique in what it talks about when it gets really course specific, and that's phenomenal. And you have Dixon, who brings in, who talks a lot about stats, gets into a lot of the details about, circle 2 and driving. And for somebody that really enjoys that, that is perfect for them. We're never going to talk about that. We're going to sit and chat with Jordan Castro about what his premier sponsor is, or Chris Dickerson about him losing a disc. And it's going to be it's never a conversation that would ever make it on a major network. It's stuff that we just want to chat with. We want to chat with somebody. And you've got News and Brews, which does their thing.
Just hang out with your friend. Yeah.
That's all we want to do, because I truly do feel that if Twitch is an interesting platform in that it really started with people playing video games. And what is that market? That is, they treat that as an interactive, you're sitting on the couch with your buddy and you're watching your buddy play this video game. And you're interacting, you're talking with them, and you're talking with all these other people. It's you and like your 50 closest friends all sitting around watching this guy. Amazon's rolling out a feature that will allow you to do that with Amazon Prime TV shows. So like whatever is on Amazon Prime, you'll be able to put on Twitch, and then you can have one person who maybe is like the movie buff, and he's sitting on the couch and he's talking about this movie, whether he's Mystery Science Theater 3000 it, or he's telling you all this cool story about, oh yeah, I know this movie inside and out, and if you look right behind this scene, it's actually, all CG, and you're just going to be sitting there with like a buddy, and you're just going to be watching TV. And it's really interesting that I think that's kind of the avenue that we really lean into, is a podcast where it feels to me like a car ride with 6 of your buddies, where you're just talking about disc golf. And it doesn't matter what you talk about, because you're just talking disc golf. We have no agenda. We have nothing. Jordan Castro, it was literally an hour before the show that Jordan and I were talking, and he's like, do you want a guest? And I said, sure, let's talk. Like, that's all it is I just want to have a conversation about disc golf, because I do miss the time when I used to travel, 4, 5, 6 hours with my buddies in a car to a tournament, and you talk about disc golf on the way there, talk about disc golf on the way back, and now it's that kind of feeling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely feels to me more like I have you guys on I'm sure a lot of people do, just have you on in the background, and it's just like just hearing people kind of talk about something that you're interested in. It's more just kind of a communal feel for sure. So, yeah, you guys got me through a lot of long drives and cleaning adventures. So, but yeah, I should probably head to bed.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
No, it's midnight here, so it's 1 a.m. My girlfriend's there.
Yeah, and I feel bad. I don't know. I hope my girlfriend is asleep, like, 'cause she works, like, she's a normal person that has a job, and like, I don't know. I hope that she was able to fall asleep through me talking, but yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll find out in like 5 minutes how much trouble I'm in.
Awesome. All right, Mo, thank you for being my co-host. It's much appreciated. I don't believe there's going to be an after show tonight because I think we just went through our after show. So for Jordan Castro, who's, futurely sponsored by somebody, I guarantee it. He's too good of a guy not to be. For my fill-in co-host, who apparently thinks he could never replace Terry, but honestly, it wasn't that hard, and he was pretty good. Mahmoud Bahrani.
No.
Make sure to go check out the Inside Line and check out all the Central Coast stuff, because a lot of that is, camera work done by Mo and editing done by Mo. And for Terry Miller, who's not here and somewhere in Croatia.
The Warwick Championships and Firefly Hollow Open coming up.
Yep, there you go. See, and for Terry, who's in Croatia, go check out his Instagram. You can follow me on, for the most part, Twitter and Facebook. I tend to. I'm sparse on Twitter. On Facebook, a little bit more, but I tend to restrict my Facebook access to usually people that I really know. But once again, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We will get into an after show and do giveaways next week for our Patreon supporters. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.